Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Arizona.
It's the first day of August on the north side of Chicago. We're in Wrigleyville, just off Lake Michigan, for the Diamondbacks' first visit here this season. We had a quick rain shower pass through earlier this afternoon, but clear and comfortable tonight as we start this three-game series with the Cubs. It's a Teal Tuesday, D-backs baseball on Fox Sports Arizona. Good evening from Wrigley Field, and welcome to the broadcast. Steve Berthume and Bob Renly along the way. We have moved on from St. Louis to Chicago with a different-looking Diamondbacks roster now post-trade deadline, and one of the new guys, Bob, gets the start at shortstop tonight.
Yeah, Adam Rosales coming over from the Oakland A's. This is a guy that throughout his career has handled left-handed pitching extremely well. He's hit well with runners in scoring position, almost 400 this year. A guy that gives a little versatility to the team, especially with all the shortstops either on the disabled list or away from the team right now. They need a guy like Adam Rosales.
Now, just lost Chris Owings with a fractured middle finger on his right hand, suffered when he was hit by a pitch in St. Louis on Sunday. So Jack Reinheimer has been called up from AAA Reno, ready for his major league debut. And some bullpen help. David Hernandez is a Diamondback once again.
Yeah, the return of David Hernandez putting up good numbers for the Angels this year. And Jack Reinheimer was red hot at the time of his call up from Reno. He'd been hitting almost .390 over his last 9 games.
A matchup of left-handers, Patrick Corbin for the D-backs and John Lester for the Cubs. First pitch from Wrigley Field is next on Fox Sports Arizona.
Diamondbacks baseball on Fox Sports Arizona is brought to you by Gila River Casinos. The card by Gila River Casinos earns you rewards 10 times faster than ever before. Sign up today at any Gila River Hotels and Casinos location. By Chaz Roberts Air Conditioning and Plumbing. Choose Chaz. By Jack in a Box and the Jumbo Jack, a home run for your mouth. By Chase, master what's now and what's next. And by CenturyLink, connecting you to the power of the digital world.
Baseball on Fox Sports Arizona is brought to you by your Valley Honda dealers, where you get more standard features for less money. By Gigablast Internet from Cox. Get ready for the gig life. By Oregano's. Step up to the plate for a guaranteed home run at Oregano's, your neighborhood pizza joint, location statewide. By Phoenix Raceway. See Dale Jr.'s final West Coast race during the Can-Am 500 NASCAR semifinal at Phoenix Raceway November 10th through the 12th. Tickets at phoenixraceway.com. And by State Farm. Here to make life go right. Talk to an agent today or call 1-800-STATE-FARM. Chicago, Illinois. Nice day here today. Should be a lovely evening. Diamondbacks at Wrigley Field. Clear and comfy. Steve Berthume, Bob Renly, and Jody Jackson with you as we get set for the first of 3 here against the Cubs. Diamondbacks and Cubbies will actually meet 6 times in the next 13 days as Chicago comes to visit Chase Field on our next homestand. Here's the lineup tonight For the Diamondbacks against the left-hander John Lester, it's presented by your Valley Chevy dealers.
Left fielder David Peralta leading it off once again with A.J. Pollock batting second out in center field. Adam Rosales, the newest Diamondback, will be at shortstop batting third. Paul Goldschmidt over at first base. J.D. Martinez in right field. Brandon Drury moves over to third base tonight with Daniel Descalso at second. Jeff Mathis doing the catching for lefty Patrick Corbin.
And John Lester is your Ram truck starter for Chicago, 33-year-old left-hander. This is the first time the Diamondbacks are facing a left-handed starting pitcher since July 16th. It's been 13 straight games against righties.
Yeah, that was quite a run. That's highly unusual in Major League Baseball to have a streak like that against either side, but especially against righties. Now John Lester throwing from the left side. You see his numbers on the season. His last 3 starts, he's been really good. 22 innings pitched, 10 hits, only 5 runs allowed. Punched out 20 over that time, walking only 2.
A look at the Cubs defensively is presented by Nationwide Vision Centers.
Ben Zobrist playing right field tonight. Albert Almora Jr. will be in center field. Ian Happ, who they're grooming to be the next Ben Zobrist, will be over in left field. It'll be Chris Bryant and Addison Russell on the left side of the infield. Javier Baez and Anthony Rizzo over on the right side. Wilson Contreras behind the plate for lefty John Lester.
And be careful when you put the on-deck circles. Jerry Davis, the crew chief, is our plate umpire tonight. He'll have the balls and strikes. Rob Drake is at first base. Pat Hoberg at second. And Tony Randazzo is our third base umpire tonight. And before we get started here, BB, first at 3 at Wrigley Field. What do you have for your Valley Honda dealers? Key to the game.
Know your surroundings. I don't know if there's a more quirky ballpark in all of Major League Baseball. Maybe Fenway, a ballpark that was built just 2 years before Wrigley Field. But you've got the ivy, you got the basket, you've got bricks, you've got the wind. A lot to deal with here at Wrigley. And unfortunately, the Diamondbacks were not able to get on the field before the game to do their normal pregame routine. So they're going to have to learn on the fly.
Yeah, had a pretty brief but heavy rain shower come through, as we mentioned earlier this afternoon. It only rained for about 20 minutes or so, but it sort of put a damper on batting practice. David Peralta set to begin the first of 3, the Diamondbacks and the Cubs from Wrigley Field. Glad you're with us on Fox Sports Arizona. Peralta in the leadoff spot, 304 in 10 homers. Diamondbacks are aware that John Lester likes to establish his fastball arm side, which would in this case be into the left-hand batter. And he tries to do that as soon as the game begins, but gets Peralta to chase down and away right there. Torey Lovullo thought having a left-hand batter lead off the game might throw Lester off his game a bit.
Well, it's a good way to think. We talked about it before the ball game, and I mentioned that Tom Glavine in his days pitching for the Atlanta Braves was very similar in that respect. He wanted to establish that fastball low and away at the knees on the outside corner to a right-handed hitter. And if you would mix a couple of lefties in the lineup, that fastball low and away to a righty was right in the wheelhouse of a left-handed hitter. So it's a little method to his madness for Torey Lovullo tonight.
Yeah, Lester would much prefer the first batter he faces be a right-hand hitter. So Torey thought about having Peralta and Descalso bat 1-2 just to really mess with him, but he wanted Descalso's left-hand bat a little lower in the order with some of the right-handers in there.
Well, like a lot of the good pitchers in Major League Baseball, you get to John Lester early, has an ERA of 6.65 in the first inning of games.
1-2 on the Diamondback leadoff man. David's bat has gone suddenly quiet here. 1 for 21 in his last 5 games. He didn't do a whole lot in the 4 games at Busch Stadium, St. Louis. 1 for 16 in that series. Diamondbacks outscored the Cardinals 13-5 in that 4-game series, but had to settle for a 2-2 split.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Missed away, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jerry Davis didn't bite on that fastball. Good leadoff at bat right here for Peralta. David's done a good job against lefties this year. He's hitting in .284 versus left-hand pitchers, including a couple of home runs. Wilson Contreras behind the plate tonight. How about this leadoff at bat by David Peralta? He's really going to get under Lester's skin now. 9 pitches so far.
Pitches for Lester, 5 of them fouled off by David Peralta. Make it 6.
Let's keep this thing going. That one got the shin guard.
Busted a strap on his shin guard. David fouls it off that front leg. Square shot to that pad on the right ankle shin area. It looks like he's all right. Got it fixed back up.
Diamondbacks facing a Cubs team that is playing really well right now, as Jody mentioned in the pregame show. They are 13-3 since the All-Star break. And they begin tonight a season high 8 games over 500. 2-2 to David Peralta, the 11th pitch of the at-bat on the way. And it's a full count, 3-2. We'll keep going. This is exactly what Torey Lovullo is hoping for with this first at bat by the left-hand hitting Peralta tonight. He looks at strike 3. Jerry Davis gives Lester that strike down and away, and Lester wins the long battle.
Right there, that's John Lester's calling card, his command of 3 different fastballs, a sinker, a cutter, and a 4-seamer. Throws a lot of curveballs. You'll see an occasional straight changeup, but his ability to spot that fastball, or those 3 fastballs at the knees on the corners.
A.J. Pollock, the center fielder in the 2-hole tonight. There's the Lester fastball for strike 1. A.J. hitting .301 with 5 homers. Lester, with all those different fastballs, throws about 80% fastballs with the 4-seamer, the sinking 2-seamer, and the cutter. But he'll keep you off balance with the occasional curveball, and every once in a while a changeup. With that one up, popped it up to shallow left for Happ. Now here's the first Diamondback at bat for the newly acquired Adam Rosales, picked up by the D-backs yesterday in a trade for minor league pitcher Jefferson Mejia. Rosales, 234, 4 home runs with the Oakland A's. Jefferson Mejia, by the way, was the other pitcher the Diamondbacks got from these Cubs in the Miguel Montero trade a couple of years ago. The other guy was Zach Godley. So here's Rosales, first time since 2014. He has started a game batting 3rd in the lineup, and he told Torey, if it's okay, I'm going to stay with my parents. He grew up in Park Ridge, Illinois, just a few miles from here. And so Torey heard that and immediately thought, you're hitting 3rd. Hometown boy, playing at Wrigley Field, staying with the folks, big deal. You're going to get an at bat in the 1st inning. So here's Rosales batting 3rd. Hoping for some hometown mojo, but he's down 1-2.
I talked to Adam Rosales for a moment in the clubhouse earlier today, and he was super excited to be here and in the starting lineup tonight. Said he watched countless games in this ballpark as a youngster growing up.
Lester gets the call. 2 strikeouts looking in the 1st inning for John Lester. Patrick Corbin coming up from Wrigley Field. Wrigley Field, set for the home half of the first inning. And your Ram truck starter for the Diamondbacks is the left-hander Patrick Corbin. 8-9 in 21 starts, a 4.36 ERA. Patrick pitching very well lately. He's won his last 2 starts.
Yeah, and over his last 3 starts, opponents are only 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position. He's pitched well against the Cubs in his career, a perfect 3-0 with an ERA just over 3.
Ben Zobrist, the switch hitter, who's had a very quiet season offensively. You'll lead it off. They don't really have an established leadoff hitter this year. It's kind of a potpourri. And tonight it's Zobrist who can bat right-handed against the lefty Corbin. And there's strike one. Zobrist 219, 8 home runs. He's gone through a pretty big downturn in his offensive production this season after he was an all-star last year. And a key bat for the Cubs in their World Series season. Zobrist as a right-hand batter this year is hitting only 164. And sure enough, he rolls one right by Descalso at second. And into right field, the leadoff single. Here's the lineup for Joe Maddon's Cubs. It's presented by your Valley Chevy dealer.
And we've seen the right fielder Ben Zobrist at the top of the order with that single into right. Chris Bryant, the third baseman, making his way to the plate. Anthony Rizzo will be at first base. Wilson Contreras doing the catching. Albert Almora Jr. out in center field. Addison Russell will be at shortstop. Bottom third of Javier Baez at second. Ian Happ out in left field, and the pitcher John Lester.
Patrick Corbin, who has struggled in the first inning all year long, right away goes into the stretch, and here's the dangerous Chris Bryant, the reigning National League MVP. Fastball in, missed, and it's 1-0. Bryant at 279. He's got 20 home runs. He homered in the Cubs last game Sunday at Milwaukee.
As you might expect with a team with as much thunder in their lineup as the Cubs have, they don't run a lot. Chris Bryant leads the team with 7 stolen bases. Anthony Rizzo has 6. The 2 biggest guys on the team have the most stolen bases.
Patrick came inside again with that fastball and got a swing and a miss. First inning has been problematic for Patrick all year. Rizzo batting third tonight. He's on deck. Patrick in 21 starts has given up 21 first inning runs. One and two. Bryant does have a lot of swing and miss in his game. That's always been a part of things. Years ago, National League Rookie of the Year, but he led the league in strikeouts. He was punching out more than 30% of the time he was up there. But last year that strikeout number dropped, and this year it's down again, so he is getting better. He's also walking a lot more often. 2-2. Stop back there by Jeff Mathis. Keeps an eye on Zobrist at first.
That's always slider. Yeah, always important with Patrick Corbin on the mound with that back foot slider. Got to make sure it doesn't get by.
Drops one into center in front of A.J. Pollock. Zobrist can dig for third. And they're on the corners for Anthony Rizzo. Let's take a look at the Diamondbacks defense. It's brought to you by Nationwide Vision Centers.
Outfield will be David Peralta in left, A.J. Pollock in center, J.D. Martinez over in right field. Brandon Drury getting the start at third base today with Adam Rosales at short, Daniel Descalso at second, Paul Goldschmidt over at first base, Jeff Mathis behind the plate for lefty Patrick Corbin.
Now Patrick really has some work to do. It's Anthony Rizzo, who sat out the Cubs game in Milwaukee Sunday with a sore back. He'll deal with occasional back trouble, but it's usually only a day or two thing. First and third, nobody out. Rizzo didn't get the first pitch fastball he was looking for, and it's 0-1. 257 and 24 home runs. last pitch a good example of the way Patrick has pitched lately. A lot of swings and misses against left-hand hitters over the last month. Here's another one. Right away, he's ahead of Rizzo, 0-2.
You mentioned with Chris Bryant, he has a lot of swing and miss in his game. A lot of these Cubs have swing and miss in their games. They've got 5 guys, 5 guys over 80 strikeouts already this year, and Addison Russell is at 79 right now.
Look at Rizzo choking up on that bat with 2 strikes. Swings and misses, first base occupied, so that's the strikeout, the first one for Patrick. Dispatched Rizzo on 3 pitches there.
Rizzo just didn't recognize the spin on any of those pitches. That time chased a really bad slider in the dirt. Very frustrated with himself as he headed back to that dugout.
Well, this guy has been probably the Cubs' best hitter as of late. It's the catcher Wilson Contreras, who's having a big season now that he's the #1 guy back there. 269 and 16 homers. 25-year-old. Zobrist is at third and Chris Bryant at first. Contreras is filled out a bit. He's a little thicker now. He's maturing. He's hit home runs in 4 of his last 10 games. Coming off a big July. Hit over 320 last month with 7 homers. 19 runs batted in 22 games in July. The last Cubs catcher with that many homers and RBIs in any calendar month was Scott Service 22 years ago. Patrick being careful that he's behind now 3-0. Albert Almora Jr., their center fielder, is the on-deck hitter.
Don't toss him a cookie here, 3-0. Joe Madden loves to turn his hitters loose, any count.
Joe Madden was a long-time hitting coach. He looks at a fastball, strike 1. Here's the skipper.
He's a little puzzled why Contreras didn't swing at that 3-0 fastball right down the middle.
One of their hitters, Contreras, is likely the guy. Certainly Brian Rizzo, no picnic either, but Contreras is their hottest hitter right now. Here's Almora, 277. He's got 4 homers. And Zobrist at third. Chris Bryant is at second, and Wilson Contreras at first. Fastball to the right-hander, missed again. Mathis wants a word. It's 1-0. Patrick has always done a really good job of coming into righties like that. And he's missing a little too far inside to this point.
If you're trying to find good news in the walk to Wilson Contreras, everything was down. Contreras has grounded into 11 double plays this year. Patrick trying to tempt him into swinging at something down there below the knees, but Contreras laid off, took the base on balls.
2 singles and a walk. Bases loaded with a 1 out. 1-0 on Albert Almora Jr. That's a base hit into center. Zobrist is home. They're waving Bryant. Here's the throw. It's cut off. Contreras is a dead duck at third. But it's a 2-run single for Albert Almora.
Smoke back up the middle of the field. A.J. Pollock got to it quickly. Thought they might have a shot at Bryant at home plate, but he got a pretty good read. He's right on the heels of Ben Zobrist coming around third. Scores easily, but Contreras gunned down at third base.
More first inning problems for Patrick Corbin. 2 runs are in, and the batter is Addison Russell, the shortstop. 8-3-5 on the putout of Contreras at third if you're scoring with it. Russell hitting .237 with 10 home runs. That's a fair ball down the left field line. It caroms off the bricks out there. Peralta picks it up. Now Morris stops at third. It's a double for Russell. That ball was smoked by a diving Brandon Drury at third base.
Now, the first 2 hits in this inning were struck very softly, but the last 2 have been right on the button. Hard single into center field by Almora Jr. and then Addison Russell picking on a pitch and ripping it down that left field line.
Boy, this first inning issues have really hamstrung Patrick Corbin all year long. Here comes Mike Butcher to the mound now. This is Patrick's 22nd start of the year. He's now given up 23 runs in the first inning this season. It's hard to get off to a good start like that. Opponents are hitting about .350 versus Patrick Corbin in the first inning this year.
Turns out that was a real good decision by Paul Goldschmidt to cut off that throw to home plate and get the out at third base on Contreras. Otherwise, the Cubs would have another run on the board right now.
Needs to figure something out with Baez. You talk about guys who swing and miss. This guy is leading the charge there. The second baseman, Javier Baez. He's in a 2 for 19 skid right now. .263 with 13 home runs. Second and third, 2 outs and 2 runs in.
Baez punched out 87 times this year, walked only 16. He takes a vicious hack.
First came to the big leagues 3 years ago. He struck out more than 40% of the time he was up there. Still a ton of swing and miss, but it's actually about 30% now this season. So he has improved. There's a swing and a miss, and it's 1-1. That was that Patrick Corbin changeup that's made such a difference for Patrick this year. Throwing it more and more often over the last month or so. A bouncer to Rosales at shortstop, and they get Baez. Corbin strands 2, but the Cubs get 2. We'll head to the second inning. Diamondbacks trail at 2-0. again and nobody told me?
Yeah, dude.
They're out there in the bleachers here at Wrigley Field. Fans, now's the best time to become a Diamondbacks season ticket holder. Here's Jim Weber. He's a season ticket holder. He enjoys exclusive benefits, flexible payment options, and a plan that is just right for him. Plus, buy now and you can guarantee postseason priority. Buy or renew right now online at dbacks.com/advantage. Become or renew 2018 Diamondbacks season tickets. Goldie leads off the second against John Lester. 316 and 22 home runs. Lester getting a lot of called strikes from Jerry Davis back there. Not that time, however, a ball and a strike. Goldie 0 for 4 Sunday in St. Louis. That snapped a 6-game hitting streak.
Well, I find this highly puzzling, partner.
Yeah.
Now, we know Wrigley Field can play as 2 or 3 different ballparks depending on which way the wind is blowing. When it's blowing out, this is a home run heaven. When it's blowing in, you can't shoot it out of here with a cannon. But Paul Goldschmidt, in 57 at-bats in his career in this ballpark, has 1 home run.
Yeah.
That's all.
He is a .316 career hitter in this ballpark. The wind is blowing across the outfield now from right to left. Lake Michigan is a few blocks behind the scoreboard in center. Just 1 homer and 8 runs batted in 15 games here.
Well, most of the times Paul Goldschmidt has come into this ballpark, he has been the one guy in the lineup that I'm sure the Cubs said, don't let this guy beat you.
Like he broke his bat, but he knocks it through the middle. A leadoff single for Goldie. And a base runner for J.D. Martinez.
And let the fun begin. We saw John Lester pitching against the Dodgers in the postseason last year. The Dodgers tried to upset him by taking enormous leads at first base. But they were out there to a point where on the first movement they were always breaking back to first. See if Goldie has a better plan of attack against John Lester. Now, Lester does get rid of the ball quickly to home plate, but he hates to throw to first base.
Goldie, one of the best base runners in the league. 15 steals. He's only been caught 4 times. There they are, Anthony Rizzo and Paul Goldschmidt, 2 of the best in the business. J.D. Martinez, 5 homers in his first 9 games with the Diamondbacks. Long set by Lester. Contreras back picks. He'll do that a lot.
He's got 5 pickoffs on the season. However, he has 13 errors. It was described to me as an overzealous arm behind the plate. He tries to pick every base runner off base.
Got a big arm back there, likes to show it off. 0-1 to Martinez. Our State Farm winning combo, J.D. Martinez against left-hand pitchers. It's advantage Diamondbacks. How about this? Lead the major leagues, hitting over .440 versus lefties this year.
Well, Gerardo Parra get on that list.
That is a little weird. Left-hand batter. Fastball missed, 2-1 on J.D. He has hit safely in 6 of his last 7 games with the Diamondbacks. 5 homers in his last 7. Acquired from the Detroit Tigers, one of the big trade deadline moves coming several weeks before the deadline. Guys were flying all over the major league map yesterday. Yu Darvish is going to the Dodgers, and Sonny Gray's going to the Yankees, and this guy's going here and there and everywhere. It was a busy trade deadline day yesterday.
Yeah, did not disappoint baseball fans. I mean, I'm sure some people were disappointed, but in general, the trade deadline, you expect to see some movement. Well, there have been years where it's been very little movement and not a lot of impact players, but that was not the case this year.
3-1 to J.D. Martinez. Goldie holds it first. One's fouled straight back. The Diamondbacks, after getting J.D. Martinez, did make the 2 moves we told you about at the top of the show. Adam Rosales acquired from Oakland to help fill the shortstop void here. And David Hernandez reacquired. Now a Diamondback again, picked up from the Angels. Full count on Martinez, 3-2. Goldie holds it first. Martinez takes ball 4. First 2 have reached in the Diamondbacks' second. And here comes Brandon Drury.
Jumping into J.D. Martinez off the plate. One thing about John Lester, after going 1-2-3 in the first against Peralta, Pollock, and Rosales, that's 62 of 131 innings this year. He's retired the opposition 1-2-3. 47% of his innings have gone down 1-2-3. League average is only 37%.
Lester, as Jody mentioned in the pregame show, has won all of his last 3 starts. He's been very good since the All-Star break. 2-on, nobody out for Brandon Drury, who's at third base tonight as Jake Lamb sits against the lefty Lester. Goldschmidt at second and Martinez at first. Drury jumps on a first pitch fastball. Torey Lovullo was clear today. Jake Lamb is still the third baseman. But Drury over there against lefties is something that they'd like to take a look at. Torey thought that Brandon in there and Jake Lamb sitting this one out, getting some rest, was their best chance to score some runs today. But Jake will start at third base Thursday against lefty Jose Quintana. So this is not going to become a platoon situation. Brandon up there hacking down 0-2. Third base is Brandon's natural spot, but this is his first action at third base all year. He has been taking some ground balls at third, and Torey felt like he looked pretty comfortable over there. So let's put him in there against Lester, give Lamb the night off. Brandon swings at 3 fastballs, strikes out. Contreras throws down to second, trying to pick off Goldie. And that's the first out here in the second.
Up the ladder fastball that time. That's the 4-seamer up above the letters. Drury can't lay off, and Contreras can't resist throwing to a base. Goldie with what I would call a standard lead and a standard secondary lead out there at second base, but Contreras took a shot anyway.
3 strikeouts for Lester. 1 down for Daniel Descalso, who's in at second base tonight, hitting .246 with 6 homers. Two things that Torey Lovullo felt he'd like to see improve here as we start the final 2 months of the year, August 1st today. One was the defense, which has been a little spotty at times and hasn't been a big issue, but he'd like to shore that up a bit. Occasionally they've had a bad defensive game or two. The other thing is right now, and it's been obvious over the last month, situational hitting. And Torey said, look, that's an easy answer for any manager. Everybody would like to see their guys hit with runners in scoring position all the time, but it's been a problem here for the Diamondbacks last 3-4 weeks. Two balls and 1 strike to Descalso. Daniel is a .192 hitter against left-hand pitchers this year. And a double and a bases loaded walk in Sunday's game in St. Louis. After Chris Owings fractured the middle finger on his right hand with the bases loaded, Descalso had to finish up that at bat in the second inning Sunday and do that bases loaded walk for an RBI. Swing and a miss, and it's 2-2. Just foul past first. D-backs 15 games over 500. They hold a half-game lead over the Rockies for the first National League wild card spot. Colorado hosting the Mets tonight at Coors Field. That's Jeff Hoffman versus Steven Matz. D-backs 14 games behind the Dodgers NL West lead. LA is in Atlanta tonight. Doesn't fish at the 2-2 pitch. It's a full count. Second 3-2 count in this inning for John Lester. Jeff Mathis on deck.
I'll tell you one thing that could prove to be an issue for the Diamondbacks offense. If the rest of the game continues the way the early part of the game has, Jerry Davis has been giving John Lester a lot of margin off the corners. 9 called strikes already in an inning and a third. A couple of those were actually in the strike zone.
That's refreshing. Full count, 3-2. Runners hold. Ball 4. The bases are loaded. Second walk in the inning issued by Lester. And here comes Jeff Mathis. .219 and 2 homers for Jeff, but he has been among the Diamondbacks' most consistent hitters lately. 2 more hits in his start behind the plate Saturday at Busch Stadium. Paul Goldschmidt is the runner at third. J.D. Martinez at second, and Daniel Descalso at first. Mathis has hit safely in 8 straight games and 14 of his last 60. Diamondbacks got to start getting big hits in these spots. They left the bases loaded in the second inning Sunday in St. Louis. Wound up losing 3-2. There's a strike and it's 1-1.
2 walks here in the inning for John Lester. That's as many batters as he walked in his last 3 starts over 22 innings.
He has been outstanding since the All-Star break. Pitched last Thursday at the White Sox just across town. Gave up only 2 runs, 4 hits in 7 innings. Lester 3-0 in his last 3. He's gone at least 7 innings every time and allowed a total of just 5 runs. But he is struggling here. Bases loaded, 1 out. About to throw his 25th pitch in this inning. Two and 2. Need a hit here. The pitcher Corbin on deck. Strikeouts for Lester. 2 down.
It's a 4-seamer once again up in the zone. The same pitch he struck out Brandon Drury on.
Lester is only, let's see now, 5 strikeouts away from 2,000 for his career. It would be just the 25th left-hander in Major League history to get to 2,000 strikeouts. Bases full, 2 down for the pitcher Patrick Corbin. Patrick can handle the bat up there. This inning is a far cry from Lester's very efficient 1-2-3 first when he got 2 strikeouts.
walked 2 in the inning. Behind on the pitcher Corbin, 2-0. He's hit just about 50 pitches here.
Lester's 3rd season in Chicago, a 19-game winner last year. 2nd in the National League Cy Young voting to Max Scherzer. One is fouled straight back.
Cubs pitching staff has allowed only 1 base hit in the last 41 at-bats with runners in scoring position, and that base hit came to an opposing pitcher.
Need Lightning to strike twice here. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, bases full. Pitch number 50 from Lester. Got him. Lester already with 5 strikeouts. D-backs leave the bases full. They trail it 2-0.
Jackson with you, and thoughts and prayers going out to Diamondbacks infielder Ketel Marte. The tragic death of his mother in the Dominican in a traffic accident Sunday night. Just very unimaginable, actually. And I was talking to David Peralta. He was with Ketel along with Taijuan Walker and Silvino Bracho just going to get dinner on Sunday evening when Ketel got that call. They stayed with him, tried to console him, but again, a very difficult situation. Ketel is on the bereavement list. That's 3 to 7 days, but Troy Lovello said whatever time Ketel needs, he will get that. Today was the funeral, and President and CEO Derek Hall was there, along with Mike Hazen, Josh Rawitch, Graham Rossini. So again, very difficult situation right now, and thoughts and prayers with the Marte family.
Absolutely, Jody, as Ian Happ leads off the second. We got the news late Sunday after we arrived here in Chicago that Ketel's mother had been killed. Apparently she was riding a moped at home in the Dominican Republic and was hit by a drunk driver. And so Jack Reinheimer is here from AAA Reno. Jack hoping to get in the game at some point and make his major league debut. And of course, Adam Rosales acquired from the Oakland A's. No Nick Ahmed, no Chris Owens, without Ketel Marte right now. Ian Happ, switch hitting rookie, 247. He's got 13 home runs.
The partner, you were talking about Patrick Corbin's first inning troubles, and those 2 runs he gave up today give him 23 first inning runs allowed which leads the major leagues.
It's remarkable, Bob, how consistent a problem it's been for Patrick Corbin. It's like that nearly every start.
And I know Mike Butcher and Patrick have tried to iron out some things, warm up a little bit longer in the bullpen, maybe warm up a little shorter, come into the dugout, simulate like you're sitting down between innings.
And Happ gets into one and hits it deep to left center field. And gone. Rookie Ian Happ, that's his 14th, and it's 3-0 Cubs. This young man a lot, only 22 years old. First round pick out of Cincinnati just 2 years ago.
I mentioned earlier in the show that this guy potentially being groomed to take over the role of Ben Zobrist moving forward. He's basically a second baseman. He can't play third. He's played outfield. Not a great defender at any position, but a switch hitter with that kind of thump, they'll find a place for him to play.
Ian Happ, a Cincinnati Bearcat, the 9th overall pick in the draft 2 years ago. And he's having a very promising rookie year. The pitcher, Lester.
For Ian Happ, half of his hits this year, 28 out of 56 have gone for extra bases.
Yeah. Nearly all of Happ's power comes from the left side of the plate. That was only his 3rd home run this year as a right-hand batter. 1-2 on John Lester.
You know, it seems to not make any difference at all how good the Cubs pitching is or how good your pitching is. When you come to Wrigley, or that one's banged through into right field for a base hit, you're going to have to slug to win ball games.
Yeah, they're going to have to slug to win this one. Top of the order rolls around again in the second inning. It's Ben Zobrist. Well, you know, to Patrick Corbin's credit, we talked a lot about the first inning trouble, and he's had another bad one here tonight, but he's done a very good job once he gets through that of keeping the Diamondbacks in the game. After all, he's got 9 straight quality starts. He's got an ERA of about 3 in his last 9 starts. So once that initial bump settles down, he's been pretty good. Zobrist singled and scored to lead off the ball game. Patrick has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in each of his last 9 starts, and he's given up 3 so far tonight. Tied up Zobrist in on the hands that time, and it's 0-2. Albert Almora Jr., a 2-run single in the first. Ian Happ, a home run to lead off the second. 3-0 Chicago. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Ben Zobrist. Zobrist still does that cement mixer thing with his hands. It's like he's stirring a bowl of cake batter or something. Watches the hands as he gets them up behind his ear. There he goes. To third and through Drury. It checks up for Peralta. Lester in at third, and it's Zobrist at second. So Patrick Corbin's troubles continue. E5, Drury, his first game this year at third.
Hard on 2 hops. Brandon just came up with the glove, let that ball sneak underneath out into the left field corner, putting a couple of Cubbies in scoring position here, and now you're facing the big boys.
And runners at second and third and no outs. Bryan singled and scored his first time up tonight. Kris Bryant, the first Cub ever to hit at least 20 home runs in each of his first 3 major league seasons. He homered Sunday in Milwaukee. Bryant is a huge guy, 6'5", 230. 25 years old. Lester, the pitcher's at third. Zobrist, the leadoff man, at second.
It wouldn't be out of the question to at least pitch around Kris Bryant right here, get him to try to chase something bad with first base open. Nobody out in the inning, and a left-handed hitter, Anthony Rizzo, on deck. And Bryant will chase. You have to make it look like a strike around the edges of the zone and then break it down or in out of the zone.
And he hammers it right at Peralta. David's got it just shy of the track. Lester will tag and score, and it's 4-0 Cubs. Now Rizzo will hit. Zobrist stays at second, 1 out. Patrick struck out Anthony Rizzo fairly handily. Made short work of Rizzo his first time up tonight, after Zobrist and Bryant had led off the game with singles. Rizzo likes to stand in there right on top of the plate. His hands are right out over home plate when he gets in that crouch.
He's been clipped by a pitch 18 times this year.
Led the majors in getting hit by pitches 2 years ago. And this year has already been hit by more pitches than all of last season. And he's got great plate coverage. He doesn't mind getting plunked from time to time. It's easy to see why. Big guy, 6'3", 240.
The pitch was all over the plate.
Now the strike zone's going the other way. His 25th, and the Cubs have opened up a lead here in Chicago.
It's tough enough pitching to dangerous hitters, but when the count gets changed in favor of the hitter, that's just not right. That first pitch to Anthony Rizzo was all over the plate. It was plenty high enough. That one grounded to Descalso at second, easy out. Look at the first pitch here to Anthony Rizzo. Now, I know people at home are saying, well, it was one pitch. He should have made a better pitch on the next one. But if this is an 0-1 count, instead of 1-0, maybe you pitch him a little differently. He comes back with a breaking ball, chews off a little bit more of the strike zone, and Anthony Rizzo is all over. It just changes the entire strategy of how you want to attack opposing hitters by not getting that strike call.
Albert Almora, a 2-run single in the first. Runs in the second inning by Ian Happ and Anthony Rizzo. 6-0 Chicago.
For Anthony Rizzo, number 25 on the season, giving him 4 straight seasons of at least 25 home runs.
His 10th home run against a left-hand pitcher this year. He handles himself just fine against lefties. Mathis completes the strikeout. But the Cubs through 2 lead the Diamondbacks 6-0. Field, D-backs trail the Cubs 6-0. We're joined in our spacious booth here on the road by Jared Porter from the Diamondbacks front office. August 1st, that means the trade deadline has come and gone, JP. How did the Diamondbacks fare? The reviews so far have been pretty good.
Yeah, I think we fared well. You know, we were able to pounce early and get J.D. Martinez, who we're really excited about, from Detroit. He's fit in well both, you know, in the clubhouse and the lineup. So far, so good there. And then we had 2 moves kind of in the final hours, I guess, so to speak, and added Rosales and Hernandez to the mix.
Was the right-hand power bat, the corner outfield bat in Martinez, was that identified fairly early as a need with Yasmani Tomas out for such a long time?
Yeah, you know, as we looked at our team and looked at our club and, you know, so excited about the start we got off to and were able to sustain, we felt like, you know, the one thing that might be, you know, missing a little bit was that right-handed power bat there to go along with Goldie. And JD, you know, has been one of the best hitters in the American League now for a few years, and we feel very fortunate that we were able to add a guy with that kind of impact.
You know, we were talking earlier about the trade deadlines, and some years that they're a little bit of a disappointment to the fans because there's not as much movement as you expect, or the marquee names don't move. But seemed like this year there were a lot of big names bouncing around.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, especially at the end there with Darvish going to the Dodgers, and obviously we got JD early. The Cubs were able to add Wilson, so certainly some big names moved, no doubt.
How big a, I don't want to say a blow is that to the Diamondbacks, but boy, the Dodgers just load up. I mean, they got all these resources, and they end up with Yu Darvish.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are a really good team. We know that. We think we're a really good team too. I know Torrey and Mike have both said it throughout the year. We just have to focus on ourselves, try to win each game we play every day, and hopefully at the end of the season we find ourselves in a good spot.
David Hernandez, why is he a good fit for the bullpen at this time?
Yeah, David, credit to him and a credit to the Angels. He really bounced back this year and has had an excellent season. The Angels got him on a roll, in kind of a 7th, 8th inning roll there. He's able to really this year so far command 3 pitches: the power fastball, the slider or cutter, I'm not sure exactly what he calls it, and then the curveball. So he's been able to neutralize righties and lefties, and we feel he can fit in well.
2-2 on David Peralta as we talk to assistant GM Jared Porter from the Diamondbacks. Lester gets his 6th strikeout already through 2 1/3. Starting pitching. They didn't bring in a starting pitcher. The starting pitch has been outstanding this year. Is there enough depth there to get through August and September?
Yeah, we think so. Our starting pitching's been so good, which is such a credit to our pitchers, our catchers, and the work that Mike Butcher's done too. We feel it is. I mean, you guys saw Bonda make a good start up here. We have Matt Cook coming back. He's kind of still in early season mode a little bit. He's missing so much time. We feel good about it. We feel like our starting pitching depth is solid.
A.J. Pollock. Oh, you're in pretty good shape with that guy.
He's having a great season.
Yeah, there's no question the starters have been good, but I think some of the credit has to go to Mike Butcher and Torey Lovullo, the way they've managed off days and pushed guys back and given them a little bit of extra rest from time to time, keeping everybody fresh.
No doubt. We think that rest and fatigue is just so important, in all sports and baseball too. 162 games, it's a grind, and early in the season we found ourselves in a good position schedule-wise to give our guys some extra rest and give our pitchers some off days, and hopefully it pays dividends.
But Jared, I know there's some math behind the off days and the rest in the schedule, and Mike Fitzgerald and his group, we see the tremendous amount of work that they put in and how it impacts the game on the field every day. How do the increased analytics help at trade deadline day?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think every decision we make, I always say it's kind of like a pie chart. There's certain percentages that are scouting, that are analytics, that are makeup, that are how the fit, and analytics for us is certainly a big part of that chart. And we did a lot of stuff with pitch data, with the Hernandez acquisition, a lot of the defense data for the Rosales one, and certainly J.D. Martinez. It didn't take a lot to notice how much his impact against left-handed pitching hopefully is able to help us. So our analytics group is grinding. They're doing a great job. They work really hard. We're starting to build a pretty big and deep department there.
A.J. Pollock drops a double inside the right field line, his 22nd of the year. Just the 2nd hit for the Diamondbacks against John Lester. Well, here's Rosales. Tell us a little bit about what the Diamondbacks got here.
Yeah, so Adam Rosales is a veteran utility player. He can play all over the field. We feel like he has great makeup. We love his energy. I think guys like him can help the rest of the other 24 guys kind of provide that spark and provide that energy. He sets a great example. We feel like he can go out there and play shortstop for us and hold it down on days when hopefully Cattell gets back when he's off, and we feel like he fits in really well. He's another guy who's had a lot of success against left-handed pitching, especially this year and last year, and also playing in 2 pitchers' parks in Oakland and San Diego. So we think it's a good fit.
Yeah, last year career high 13 homers playing for the Padres. Started 50 games at shortstop in Oakland this year. He's certainly been around.
Well, the timing couldn't have been better acquiring Adam Rosales, because we were talking earlier, he's a hometown boy, grew up not far from here, went to a lot of ball games here at Wrigley. I'm sure he's extra special fired up tonight.
I know, it's always nice when those little side stories can play out in front of you, so we're happy for him.
And Torrey hoping to capitalize on the hometown mojo. Rosales hitting 3rd in his Diamondback debut. Trying to squirt that one through the hole, but Bryant cuts it off and throws him out. Chris Bryant, the reigning NL MVP. There's another reason why. You were here in the Cubs front office when he had his big year last year. How good is he?
I mean, he's great, and I know people say it all the time. I didn't get to know him too well when I was here, but he really is as good of a person as he is a player. He's a really good guy, really good teammate, and he does everything well. I mean, you see a play like that, but you don't even notice how good his base running is, for example. I think in the World Series last year it showed up, and he's a great player. He really is.
Now, we were able to get you from the Cubs. You were with Mike and his group in Boston, 1 year with Chicago, now with the Diamondbacks. What was it like to be part of this crazy 2016 Chicago Cubs season?
It was great. I consider I'm really fortunate and that Theo and Jed wanted to bring me over here, and it was a great season. It was kind of surreal. I got here at the end of the 15 season in September, and we went on that run, and then went to the playoffs that year, and then last year we of course won the World Series. So it was great. I learned a lot, being around this team. I learned a lot watching Joe Madden every day. It was a really good experience for me.
What did you learn from Joe Madden? He seems like the kind of guy you can always learn something from.
You know what, Joe? He just takes pressure off players so well. It's so impressive. He does such a good job day to day. Young players are able to flourish under him. Just keeps the vibe so even keeled. He's really good. He's really creative, and like Torrey this year, you guys mentioned the rest thing. He's really good at using the entire roster, and he values every guy. Great communicator. There's a lot of similarities between him and Torrey, in my opinion.
I think that's vitally important for any ball club to incorporate your bench players and make them feel like they're part of it. If you sit over there on that bench for 10 days, 2 weeks at a time, you're not probably going to be very effective when you do get your chances.
No question.
2-1 to Goldie. AJ at second with 2 outs. Well, Torey Lovullo was that guy. He was that player.
Right.
He was talking about that the other day. Sunday against St. Louis. Hey, if somebody didn't want to sit out the Sunday day game, I was crushed because that's my day. 2-2 to Goldie. Was it as crazy here last October as it seemed on TV?
It was. And the city was just so energized. The fans here were just going nuts, and they're so excited. It was great. Working for a team when you win the World Series, I think it all goes by so quickly.
Yeah.
Before you know it, it's over. Which happened last year. But it was so electric around here. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Diamondbacks trying to get better in terms of the timely hits, and there you go, the RBI single with 2 outs for Goldie. The D-backs are on the board. What has impressed you most in your time with the Diamondbacks about Paul Goldschmidt?
He's his steadiness. He's got such a steady offensive approach. He grinds at bats. He hits for power. He hits for average. He uses the whole field. He's a very good defender at first base, which I think is incredibly important and oftentimes gets overlooked. Like I mentioned with Brian earlier, Paul's a great base runner. Makes a lot of smart decisions. He leads by example. He's a good person, and I think every player looks up to him, and certainly the young guys should and do try to emulate him as far as how he acts.
Have you been surprised at how quickly J.D. Martinez, considering all that goes on when you get traded like that, it's a whirlwind of your professional and personal life. Have you been surprised that he's been this productive this quickly?
It's a good question. I think, if you asked me, a week ago if he was going to hit 5 home runs in the week, I probably would have been surprised. But, watching him play over the last couple of years, even this year, I know he went early against us, with Greinke, I think. He's got impact power. He really does. You watch how even his fly balls, one-handed fly balls deep to almost to the wall. He's a really strong guy. So, no, I'm not surprised at the body of it. 5 home runs, of course, is always a little surprising in a week, but that's great. We'll take it.
0-2.
Are you a believer in the idea of protection in the lineup? Because it certainly would seem like Paul Goldschmidt should be getting better pitches with J.D. hitting behind him.
Yeah, I think Torrey talks about it, like a 1 to 9, they all link together. And, I certainly think that putting a guy like J.D. in there, probably does put a little more fear in pitchers pitching to Goldie. So it's great,
And Torrey has moved things around with his, we call it the Fab Five in the lineup now, with Peralta leading off and Pollock in the 2-hole and Jake Lamb batting third, then Goldie and JD. That's as good a 1 through 5 as it looks like any team in the league.
Yeah, no, we're excited about it. And, you saw David's first at bat tonight. He really grinded that lead off at bat, which was great. AJ with the double and just missed that one in the first too, I thought, like Cutter. So far we like the look, and we hope it continues.
Well, D-backs get one. Jared Porter, assistant GM. JP, thanks so much for coming by.
Of course, guys. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the deadline.
Thank you. Take care.
6-1. D-backs fans, don't forget to stop by your local Fry. Stock up on Aquafina water products using your VIP card. You could win a chance to participate in the Jake Lamb Fantasy Camp or win game-worn gear and autographed items. See the store display for all the official rules and details. Thanks to Assistant GM Jared Porter. Talking trade deadline. Addison Russell, the Cubs shortstop, leads off the third against Patrick Corbin. Patrick gave up 2 homers in the second. Ian Happ a solo shot. Anthony Rizzo a 2-run homer. Chicago 2 in the first and 4 in the second. D-backs trailed 6-1. Russell reaches out and drops it into center field, a leadoff single. Third consecutive hit for Cubs leadoff batter so far. How about Jared Porter? He works with the Red Sox and Mike Hazen's group for a while. He comes to the Cubs. One time in 108 years they win it, and he's here. I mean, that's timing, man.
He's got that rabbit's foot in his pocket.
Sure does. Now
we're glad he's here.
Oh, yeah, he's terrific. Huge acquisition for Mike Hazen and his group. Javier Baez rounded out his first time up.
The Cubs are 4 for 6 tonight against Patrick Corbin when he's pitching out of the windup. Seems a little odd.
Broken bat bouncer to Descalso at second. Rosales turns it. Here's our first look at Adam Rosales turning a double play. His Diamondback debut tonight.
Hey fans, a day after every D-backs win, get 50% off all pizzas at regular menu price using promo code DBACKS50 at papajohns.com.
2 outs on 4 pitches for Corbin. And here's the switch hitting rookie Ian Happ, who homered to lead off the second inning, his 14th of the year. It was only his 3rd home run batting right-handed this season.
Probably shouldn't give this away, but it's too good not to.
Yeah.
When I was talking to Adam Rosales earlier today, we were standing right next to Jeff Mathis' locker down in the clubhouse on the first base side. And it was laying right there in his locker. It was hard not to see it. Jeff Mathis had basically a scouting report on the home plate umpire Jerry Davis, where he was from, where he went to school, how many years he's worked, just to develop a little bit of a rapport back there behind home plate with the umpires you're going to be catching in front of, as opposed to just turn around and say, where was that pitch, Blue?
A little bit helps.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked so far, but it's nice to know. Boy, just think what you would have done with all that information in your day.
Well, back in the day, I mean, I knew a lot of the umpires. As a matter of fact, I caught in front of Jerry Davis in the minor leagues. I've known Jerry for about a million years.
Another little bloop drops into right field. Not simple for Happer's 2 for 2.
I think the Cubs' biggest problem this year is trying to figure out what they want to do to acknowledge the bench after getting a base hit. We saw Happ going through a series of signs like he was giving signs to a batter down there at first base. For a while, they were just waving back at the bench after a base hit.
Work out the choreography. Now 9 hits already for the Cubs, 2 of them home runs. Lester has one. He singled and scored in the second. Cubs have had 17 batters face Patrick Corbin so far. 11 have reached base. And a miss by Lester. It's 2-1.
Patrick has walked 1, struck out 2. 9 hits for the Cubs, 2 homers. I never get used to the scoreboard in this place. It takes you 3 games to figure out where to look. I mean, the center field scoreboard, it's iconic, it's gorgeous, but boy, it is useless.
It's like a Keno board in Las Vegas.
Like, what are all those numbers? Look at that board. Figure out, where's the score? Try and find the score. Good luck. Deep left center. And there it goes. John Lester, a home run. And it's 8-1 Cubs.
Third of the plate fastball for John Lester. Wind is moving the ball that way a little bit, kind of blowing across from right to left, maybe out to left. Still hit that ball extremely well up over the 368 mark. That's one of the shorter home runs you can get in Major League Baseball. That area just to the left of the 368 mark in left field, over to what they call the well in straightaway left.
Curtain call for Lester. That was his 197th career at bat and his very first home run. Three home runs in a span of 11 hitters for the Cubs. Zobrist and single reached on an error, and that one is just foul.
98th game for John Lester when he's taken at bats as a hitter. His first career multi-hit game.
All that many at bats, having played in Boston for so long. Runs on 10 hits, including 3 homers. This is the way the Cubs have been playing lately, 13-3 since the All-Star break. That's gonna roll foul. Cubs, even though their lead over Milwaukee atop the National League Central Division is only 2.5 games, you gotta feel like they're in pretty good shape. They're, for the most part, pretty healthy right now. The bats are starting to come around. They added Quintana. They added Justin Wilson to the bullpen yesterday. And of their remaining 58 games, Joe Maddon's club plays 40 against teams with losing records.
The schedule certainly should work in their favor in the second half of the season as you look at the standings today.
Yes, he went. Rob Drake at first base. But John Lester gets his first homer. The Cubs' third home run tonight against Patrick Corbin. They lead at 8-1.
well, what do you call it, complex here at Wrigley Field. There's construction and huge construction projects all over the ballpark as the renovations continue. T-Mobile gives us a look at our unlimited baseball break. The Diamondbacks a half game ahead of the Rockies for that first National League wild card spot. Colorado hosts the Mets tonight at Coors Field. Steven Matz for New York, Jeff Hoffman, the rookie, for Colorado. Rockies trail that one 1-0. Brewers very much in the discussion, only 5.5 back of the wild card spot. 2.5 games behind the Cubs for the division lead. This is a whole baseball city going up around Wrigley Field as they continue what has been a 4, 5, 6 year plan to renovate not just the ballpark but all the land around it. Office buildings, hotels, apartments, restaurants, all going up here in Wrigleyville. Brandon Drury leads off the fourth against John Lester. You've been coming here a long time. Do you even recognize this place anymore?
It's really tough to recognize. I mean, some of the neighborhoods surrounding the Wrigleyville area look the same as they have for years and years, but the Wrigleyville neighborhood itself right here around the ballpark is really undergoing a lot of changes. High rises, as you mentioned, restaurants, apartments,
there was
hotels.
A big vacant lot right behind one of the, I guess, the third base side of the ballpark, and now it's a massive park and office building, state-of-the-art offices for the Cubs. I mean, things are changing around here quickly. Drury struck out his first time up. And all Chicago so far. They got 2 in the first on a Albert Almora Jr. 2-run single. A 4-run second, home runs by Ian Happ and Anthony Rizzo. 2 more in the third on John Lester's first major league home run. Murray pops it up second base for Baez.
He's always trying to be cool out there. He was just going to camp underneath that ball, put up his glove, and not move. But the wind pushed it out toward left center field. Had to make an adjustment and had to snow cone that ball to make the catch. Woo!
Baez is very big on style points, sometimes he gets shut out. Scalzo walked in his first plate appearance tonight. In there at second base with Brandon Drury at third. Jake Lamb has the night off against the lefty Lester. Daniels hit safely in 5 of his last 6 games. He had a double Sunday in St. Louis. He's 0-2.
They're giving him a lot of room in the gap in right center as well as right down the right field line, figuring that he's not going to pull the ball against John Lester. If he would happen to hook one down that right field corner, he could sure double, possibly a triple. Now Morris playing almost into the right center field gap.
Yeah, he's way over there. Jerry Davis gives Lester his 8th strikeout, so now he's only 2 away from 2,000 strikeouts for his career. Pardon me, 1 strikeout away.
It's a cut fastball working away from a left-handed hitter. Not sure if that was on the call or the swing. Looked like both.
Jeff Mathis, a strikeout victim. John Lester came into tonight needing 9 strikeouts to get to 2,000. So far he has walked 2 and punched out 8. So he's 1 away from 2,000. He would become only the 25th left-handed pitcher in baseball history to reach 2,000 strikeouts. But behind on the Diamondback catcher, 2-0. Mathis struck out with the bases loaded in the second. He's got an 8-game hitting streak on the line tonight. Pitcher spot is up next
There's a 3-0 strike. TJ McFarland has started warming up with the bullpen. Patrick Corbin is in the on-deck circle. Now, we'd like to show you TJ McFarland warming up with the bullpen, but we can't anymore. I can't believe we forgot to mention this already. They moved the bullpens. They're now under the seats where they've installed cameras. Well, that's the only way to tell now who's warming up. They used to be right on the sides.
Yeah. Corner outfielders and infielders are ecstatic.
3-2 to Mathis.
Because before you had to deal with those bullpen mounds and a bullpen bench and 8 to 10 to 12 people sitting down in that bullpen. If somebody happened to hit a ball down in that vicinity just past the tarp, you had a lot to deal with as a corner outfielder coming over into foul territory, and not much foul territory to work with.
3-2 to Jeff Mathis. Lester going for 2,000 career strikeouts. Just did get a piece of that one. Eighth pitch of the at-bat all the way to the Diamondback catcher. 90 pitches, 64 strikes. 3-2 to Mathis. Seems odd that he would be just the 25th lefty ever to get to 2,000 strikeouts. Think about some of the great left-hand pitching strikeout artists over the years. Lester trying to get on that list.
Think about a lot of the lefties that are at the top of that list, hard throwers or guys that had some kind of a specialty pitch, the Sandy Koufax curveball or some of the Randy Johnson's fastball slider combination. And John Lester's not overpowering with any of his stuff. I think command has been the reason he's been able to get to this close to the milestone.
Well, it's not going to come with this at bat as Mathis draws the 2-out walk. Corbin goes back into the dugout and will have a pinch hitter for Patrick. Third walk issued by Lester tonight. And here is the major league debut for Jack Reinheimer, called up from AAA Reno today. Just over 100 games with the Aces. He was hitting .283 there with 4 homers. Brought up for some shortstop depth. So Reinheimer gets to face Lester for his first major league at bat. Corbin's night ends here. Diamondbacks thin at shortstop right now. Both Nick Ahmed and Chris Owings on the 60-day disabled list after getting hit by pitches. Ketel Marte back home in the Dominican Republic dealing with the tragic death of his mother over the weekend. So here's Jack Reinheimer in his major league debut. Reinheimer out of Charlotte, North Carolina, played his college ball at East Carolina University. 5th round pick by Seattle in the 2013 draft. Diamondbacks acquired him a couple of years ago as part of a deal for Mark Trumbo. 0-2. Reinheimer's played 5 seasons in the minors, a career .279 minor league hitter. Lester going for 2,000 career strikeouts, no balls and 2 strikes.
See the sweat dripping off the hat of John Lester out there on the mound. It is a muggy night here, very comfortable, but a lot of humidity. He gets through.
Behind Contreras, Mathis moves up.
Yeah, picking up an RBI in your first major league at bat.
That would be cool, man.
Jack has friends and family here at the ballpark. I saw somebody wearing a Reinheimer jersey. Diamondbacks Sedona red down on the third base side before the ball game.
And he strikes out. That's 2,000 career strikeouts and a standing ovation for John Lester here at Wrigley Field. Friendly had a great seat for this one. Austin Jackson in center field at Fenway Park. Wow! Our Cox high-speed highlights the Indian center fielder into the bullpen. Look at that. Wow. That's amazing.
And that's not one of the short fences. That fence is probably a good 5-6 feet tall, and he was up and over it with ease.
Bottom fourth here at Wrigley Field. Diamondbacks trail the Cubs 8-1. The Gash line called to the bullpen. Brings us the left-hander T.J. McFarland, his 27th appearance of the year, as tonight Patrick Corbin can go only 3 innings. And Patrick, in those 3 innings, tied career highs. He gave up 10 hits and 3 home runs. It just was not his night. Chris Bryant, who has singled, scored a run, and knocked in a run with a sacrifice fly, leads off the 4th. Didn't get to see Michael in that shot. A little disappointed.
I think he was working. There was a pitcher warming up for the Red Sox, and I didn't see Michael on the bench anywhere, so I'm assuming he was either catching or up in the clubhouse. Watching the D-backs Cubs game on TV.
Red Sox have had some issues the last few weeks with David Price having some comments and confrontations with Dennis Eckersley working Red Sox TV. Dustin Pedroia just went on the DL. He's got a little bit of a knee, I think. So the Red Sox had some issues as the Yankees loaded up with pitching. Got Sonny Gray. And, you got somebody else, too. Oh, Jaime Garcia.
Yeah, there you go.
Brandon Drury at third. Almost lost the handle on that one. Brandon's first game at third base this year. He's had 1 error earlier. And he recovers to retire Bryant to open up the 4th.
As I mentioned, the Diamondbacks didn't have an opportunity to get on the field today and go through their normal pregame routine, taking batting practice, taking ground balls, the outfielders playing balls off the wall, off the side walls, just to get a feel for Wrigley Field. And Brandon Drury, in his first start at third base this year, didn't have the opportunity to get out there and see some hard hit balls right at him at third base, but the Cubs have obliged him here early.
Rizzo has struck out and homered. 2-run homer in the second, his 25th of the year. This one off Patrick Corbin.
Slider of just didn't break enough or sharply enough.
His 10th home run this year against a left-hand pitcher. Lefty's pretty much a non-issue for Rizzo. Two and one. Foul ball at first. 2 balls and 2 strikes on the Cubs' first baseman.
You pointed out earlier, partner, that Rizzo stands so close to the plate, chokes up on the bat. You try to go away from him, and that outside corner, because he stands so close to the plate, is really the middle of the plate to him. So if you try to throw it off the plate far enough that he can't hurt you, it's out of the strike zone. I think teams that have had success against Anthony Rizzo try to pitch him inside, show him away, try to get him out inside.
Set up down and away here, and he looks at strike 3.
In the booth talking about Paul Goldschmidt and all of the tremendous attributes that Goldie has. I think Cub fans and people in the Cubs organization would say the same thing about Anthony Rizzo. Very similar types of players, very representative of their organizations, and proud to be the point guy for the Diamondbacks and the Cubs.
Yeah, we've jokingly referred to Rizzo over the last few years as the left-handed Goldie.
Yeah.
So many similarities physically and the way they play the game. The catcher Wilson Contreras has walked and grounded out. Well, it seems like just yesterday that the Cubs were running through 3 different catchers. David Ross, now he's on Dancing with the Stars, and Miguel Montero essentially got fired, and he's in Toronto now after complaining about Jake Arrieta and some of the other Cub pitchers not holding runners. But Contreras has really settled into the role as the #1 guy now at the age of 25. And he's got a base hit into left center field, a 2-out single, the 11th hit for the Cubs tonight. Contreras sees A.J. juggle the ball and sneaks into second base. Pollock bobbled the ball, picking it up off the ground, and Contreras took a big turn and snuck into second. That's going to be a single for Contreras, and E8, the error on Pollock, allows him to get to second.
Just didn't get it in the glove. Tried to pick it up before he had it, and Contreras, to his credit, took a big turn around first base, saw that little bit of a bobble, and with 2 outs gets himself into scoring position for the Cubs.
Well, the offensive malaise that we saw in St. Louis seems to have seeped into all aspects of the game as we start the series in Chicago. Albert Elmore Jr., 2-run single in the first. He struck out his last time up.
A.J. Pollock's first error since 2015. Now, this field used to be an absolute cow pasture. It came in, it used to be seriously crowned from the pitcher's mound into foul territory. If you hit a base hit and went to round the bag at first, you ended up running uphill to the base. I used to laugh every time a visiting team would come in here the first game of the series. The first base hit, the guy would run down there and stumble and fall over first base.
Those stats for AJ a little warped considering he hardly played last year, but it's rare to see him bobble a ball like that. Drury retires Elmore. That ends the inning. It's 8-1 Chicago.
lead at 8-1. Time to take a look at this day in Major League Baseball history, brought to you by Geico. We go back to 1986 on a day that the Twins were celebrating their 25th anniversary. A couple guys knew how to help out. Kirby Puckett hit for the cycle, and Bert Blyleven becomes the 10th pitcher in Major League history to record 3,000 career strikeouts.
Wow, we just saw John Lester get 2,000 in the last half inning. That's coincidental. Of course, the next year the Twins went on to win the World Series, beat the Cardinals in 7 games at the old Metrodome with the big baggie out there. Ron Gardenhire's Twins. He was a coach on that team for Tom Kelly. David Peralta has struck out twice in the leadoff spot. That one hit him.
That's one way to keep the pitch count down. David Peralta had seen 19 pitches in his first 2 at-bats of this ball game, hit 9 foul balls, but
raised a wristband.
An arm hair hanging down there or something.
Not anymore. There's AJ. Diamondbacks had their big chance against Lester in the 2nd inning. He threw 31 pitches in a long 2nd inning, the 3rd most amount of pitches he's thrown in any one inning this year. He had bases loaded, 1 out, but couldn't get a run across. Another throw down to first by Contreras, who really likes to show off that arm. Bases loaded, 1 out. After Goldie singled, Martinez walked, Descalso walked, Mathis and Corbin, the pitcher, struck out 8-9. And they left him loaded. And that has pretty much been it for the Diamondbacks. They have only 3 hits. They've been out hit 11-3. They trail at 8-1. Lester about to throw pitch number 100 tonight. 1-1 to the Diamondbacks center fielder. AJ doubled and scored the Diamondbacks' only run. Back in the 3rd, came home on Goldie's 2-out RBI single. AJ sends one to center, drops in for a base hit. First 2 have reached to the Diamondback 5th. Here's the 3rd at bat as a D-back for the local boy Adam Rosales, making his Diamondback debut tonight. Acquired yesterday from the Oakland Athletics for some shortstop depth. Chris Bosio going to make the long, slow walk out to the mound to talk to Lester. Diamondbacks really short-handed at shortstop right now. Ahmed, Chris Owings, both on the 60-day DL. Underneath the seats, the new Cubs bullpen. Hector Rondon. You're not doing yourself any favors getting into this bullpen. The Cubs relief corps has been outstanding lately. And they added to it, they picked up Justin Wilson from the Tigers.
Even more balanced now. 3 lefties, 5 right-handed pitchers.
So no Owings, no Ahmed, they're both hurt. Ketel Marte is home in the Dominican Republic dealing with the tragic death of his mother on Sunday. So Rosales up there with Peralta at second, Pollock at first, and nobody out. Adam has struck out, grounded out so far, 0 for 2. Adam Rosales from Park Ridge, Illinois, just a few miles from here. Played his college ball in Western Michigan.
The Broncos, if I remember correctly, Western Michigan.
I believe you are correct, sir.
Mid-America Conference.
He's staying, he told Torey Lovello, with his folks while the Diamondbacks are here. Chance to catch up with mom and dad. So Torey thought, well, you know what? Hometown kid, about 10, 12 miles from here. Grew up coming to games at Wrigley Field, staying with mom and dad. Let's bat him 3rd tonight, see what happens. Rosales gets into one. Left field corner, and it's off the wall. He just missed a home run. Peralta is home. Pollock's at 3rd. Adam Rosales has his first Diamondback hit. It's an RBI double at Wrigley Field. That one's going out to Park Ridge, Illinois.
Oh, I thought he got one right there. Just hit it too low and too hard. Didn't get the kind of carry it looked like he was going to off the bat. Our Chaz Roberts Air Conditioning and Plumbing, it doesn't get much cooler than that. Going back to Wrigley Field where you watched games growing up as a kid and banging an RBI double off the eye.
And it's Rosales' double that will end John Lester's night as Lester is unable to get a single out in the 5th inning. 104 pitches. The Diamondbacks have really made him work, but he leaves having struck out 9, now at 2,000 for his career, holding an 8-2 lead. Back after this from Wrigley Field. John Lester, the Cubs starter. He hits his first ever homer, records career strikeout number 2,000. Led the game at 1.8-1, but he cannot get a single out in the 5th inning, and now he can't get the win.
Well, there's something to be said for running up pitch counts, and that's what the Diamondbacks were able to do, even though they didn't have great success getting runners on base or getting them around. But they ran up a pitch count early, and Joe Madden pulls the plug on his lefty.
Well, they have a genuine chance here to get right back in the game. A run is in. 2nd and 3rd, nobody out. Hector Rondon comes on to face Paul Goldschmidt, who has singled twice and knocked in a run.
Rondon, his 45th appearance of the season. He's allowed 33 hits in 152 at bats. That's a .217 opponent's batting average. 52 punch outs, 17 walks.
The run is in on the Adam Rosales RBI double. He's at 2nd, A.J. Pollock at 3rd, and nobody out. Fastball in. Rondon, a hard thrower. It's 1-0 to Goldie. Goldie hit .313 in July, but last month 3 homers and 12 RBIs, his lowest totals in both categories in any month this year. Looking to get right back in this with one swing, but as we mentioned earlier, Goldie in 15 career games at Wrigley Field has just 1 homer.
He has 1 homer against Hector Rondon in his career, 3 for 5 lifetime. One of those 3 left the yard.
2-0. Swing and a miss. 98-mile-an-hour fastball. Big difference in some of the hit data with Goldie this year shows that he's swinging at balls in the strike zone more often than ever before, like we just saw, but at the same time he's making contact with those pitches in the zone less often. Reaches out and lifts this one to happen left field. AJ will stay at 3rd. Chance for J.D. Martinez to do some damage. Goldie can't get a run in. Martinez has walked and struck out 0 for 1. 12 RBIs in his first 9 games as a Diamondback. Got to get both these runners in somehow. Pollock is at third. Rosales, who runs very well, at second. Chopper just by Rondon. Bryant charges. They get Martinez at first. Pollock scores, and it's 8-3. Rosales into third. It's a good example of what's plagued the Diamondbacks lately. When they do get runs in those situations, it's often an RBI ground out, where in the first half of the year somebody would hit a home run or bang a double off the wall or something. Now they're taking their runs in single units and trading them for outs.
Early in the season, what Torrey liked to call linking the at-bats. Paving the way to the big innings, the crooked numbers. Just haven't been able to do that as consistently as they did early.
Brandon Drury 0 for 2. Ball missed. Brandon has struck out, popped up in there at third tonight. Night off for Jake Lamb against the lefty John Lester. First appearance of the year for Brandon Drury at third base. Rosales at third with 2 outs. Scalzo would be next. Brandon able to lay off. It's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Peralta was grazed by a pitch to lead off the inning. Pollock singled. Rosales had an RBI double. That was well off the plate. 2 outs, 2 and 2 to Drury. Shortstop, Russell. But the Diamondbacks close the gap. It's 8-3. It's August 1st. Diamondbacks trail the Cubs 8-3. Fans, if you can't watch
The D-backs games on TV. Don't forget you can stream them live on your mobile device with Fox Sports Go. It's presented by your Valley Honda dealers. Just download the free app and take Fox Sports Arizona and Goldie and the D-backs with you wherever you go. Addison Russell leads off the 5th. And it's TJ McFarland, his second inning of work on in relief of Patrick Corbin. Russell has doubled and singled. He's 2 for 2. A big marriage proposal in between innings. And that's happening right behind the Diamondback dugout on the first base side as Russell lines out to AJ to lead off the 5th. Here they are. That's I think her name was Elena. Elena, will you marry me? Popped up on the video board while we were away, and apparently she said yes. Nice work by our crew. These guys don't miss anything here. It's a Cub wedding.
What jersey she has on. He's obviously a Chris Bryant fan.
There's a lot of those around here.
Yes, indeed.
Well, it's always nice to have that documented. You can take the tape for TV, people taking pictures around it. Baez.
John Lester out of the ball game now. We mentioned he recorded his 2,000th strikeout of his career. This is a strange but true fact.
Oh, good time for one.
John Smoltz hit a home run in the game where he recorded his 2,000th strikeout, just like John Lester did tonight.
Okay, man, now you're freaking me out.
Wow.
Speaking of the Braves, I got one for you.
Okay.
Do you remember where you were in 1997?
Not quite sure where I was this morning, but 97.
97. That was right before you came to the Diamondbacks, right? Little tapper back to McFarland. Baez going to jog halfway to first and give up. Is he all right? He doesn't look great. Baez walks slowly off the field. I can tell you that in 1997, Ozzie Albies, I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Yeah, Ozzie Albies was born. And he is the top prospect in the Braves system, who is set to make his major league debut tonight for the Atlanta Braves. Wow. Against the Dodgers there. Well, he may already be in. Did he play? He did play. So there you go.
So you just wanted to make me feel real old.
Well,
is that it?
Some members of your staff who have traveled with us here were up to that. There is the Dodgers-Braves score. If you can, you got to count here because the Dodgers lead 1-2-3 to nothing. So they don't put the score up. It's a lot of work.
And they can only get 12 games on that board in center field. And we know there are more than 24 teams in Major League Baseball, so somebody gets left off just about every day.
And it's great to have, I mean, it's just beautiful. It's iconic. It is Wrigley Field, the great center field scoreboard. But they've got these 2 other giant video boards, but they've got ads and lineups and guys' spin rates on these things, and they don't put the score on the other scoreboards either. There's that one in left center field and the one in the right field corner. See, it tells you the pitch count and the guy's ERA and his whip, but it didn't tell you the score. I want to look into that.
For entertainment purposes only.
This is an exhibition, not a competition. Please, no wagering. Brandon Drury. Then McFarland works a 1-2-3 5th.
down tonight.
There was that long pause in the middle there. KC and the Sunshine Band. What's next? Brought to you by CenturyLink. Game 2 of this 3-game set here at Wrigley Field, Chicago. Zach Godley on the mound for the Diamondbacks against Jake Arrieta for the Cubs. Diamondbacks live pregame show with Jody Jackson comes your way at 4:30 in the afternoon back home to the great state of Arizona. Not so great so far for the D-backs. They trailed at 8-3 as Daniel Descalso leads off the 6th.
I ran into Zach Godley last night at Ditka's. Went in there for a bite to eat, and Zach was in there loading up on some good red meat.
I don't talk about food. I made a run yesterday. Hadn't been there in 20 years. I said, I got to go. I went to the Billy Goat. Cheeseburger. Yeah, under Michigan Avenue.
Yeah.
And boy, I tell you, those things come out. You can't eat too many of them. They come hot off the grill. Double cheese, 2 double cheese. Then they ring the bell. It's just like the skit. And boy, those things are good.
Not the location that you might expect, but I guess it's appropriate. It's called the Billy Goat Tavern since it's underneath the overpass there.
Oh, and it's an absolute landmark, not just because of the Saturday Night Live skit that they used to do with Belushi and Aykroyd and all those guys. But if you're in Chicago and you want a burger, go to the Billy Goat Tavern. Just go to Michigan Avenue by the river, walk down, go under. It's under the bridge. And it's this little hole in the wall, all these great old pictures of Chicago icons, newspaper columnists, and everything else. Burger, chips. Want chips? No chips. So yeah, and then the governor, Greg Schulte and Tom Candiotti dragged me to Gibson's for dinner, where Candy put away about 25 pounds of strawberry shortcake.
Which was one piece.
Yes. So as usual, lots of good places to eat here in Chicago. I've been to Harry Carey's. That's great.
Yeah, Harry's is good. Really good.
Mostly Italian, if I recall.
Yeah. The original Harry's is over by the House of Blues. We used to go over there to catch some shows and then hit Harry's on the way home.
Now, Harry, if I recall, as we look at this 3-2 pitch to Daniel Descalso. Oh, Jerry Davis rings it up. Didn't Harry used to sneak you out of the ballpark, out of his own secret private exit?
Well, Harry had a thing, obviously, deservedly so. He had a limo everywhere he went. And it was especially valuable on getaway days on the road because the team obviously would go in the clubhouse, have a meal, take a shower, pack up all the gear. You know, it'd take an hour or so after game was over before you'd actually get on your way to the airport. But Harry had the limo running and waiting as soon as the third out was made. And occasionally he would stick his head in the radio booth and say, "Hey, kid, you're coming with me." And Harry would hit several stops on the way to the airport.
Because he had an hour or so while everybody was getting ready.
Plenty of time for Harry.
He didn't need much.
Oh, boy.
Mathis sends one to right center. Almora runs it down again.
Well, after the first time Harry invited me to ride the limo to the airport with him, every getaway game the rest of the year in the 9th inning, I would sit there staring at the door in the back of the booth, waiting for Harry to walk by. Please take me with you. Please take me with you. Some of them were old-fashioned speakeasy kind of neighborhood club places where you had to know a special code word to get in. Had a little slot where they'd slide it open and look out to see who you were. Some of them a little terrifying, to be quite honest with you. But, you know, Harry was everybody's best friend.
TJ McFarland will hit for himself. That's not bad when you're cruising around town with Harry in a limo. That's a pretty good run right there.
Living large.
That's a foul ball. Contreras skied up to that. Get that one. Hector Rondon on in relief of John Lester, who cannot get the win tonight. He went only 4+. That will stay fair. Bryant's got a hustle. He's got no play. TJ McFarland. No
nobody was covering second base. And TJ was happy just to beat that out for an infield hit. Could have run to second. Nobody within 90 feet of that base.
I'm just glad TJ knew which direction to run. He doesn't get very many at bats.
Dave McKay telling him that right there. Joe Madden, slow walk to the mound. That's TJ McFarland's first major league hit. Madden will end Rondon's night here. We'll take a break from Wrigley Field. Diamondbacks trail the Cubs 8-3.
The Cubs 8-3. Hey fans, anytime the D-backs score 5 runs or more, Taco Bell is giving away 3 free tacos with the purchase of a large drink between 4 and 6 the following day at participating locations.
New pitcher for the Cubs, left-hander Brian Dunsing. He has struck out 49 batters in just under 44 innings. Going to face David Peralta. With TJ McFarland, the pitcher, running at first and 2 outs here in the 6th. Peralta has struck out twice. He's been hit by a pitch and scored a run. Down 0-2.
You mentioned how good this Cubs bullpen has been recently, and Dunsing has been part of that. He hasn't given up a run since June 22nd.
Carl Edwards Jr. has really been good, the young right-hander. Added lefty Justin Wilson at the trade deadline, acquired yesterday from the Tigers, along with veteran catcher Alex Avila, who's now the backup to Wilson Contreras. So the bullpen just got better for the Cubs. Got Koji Uehara back there, Pedro Strop, and of course Wade Davis closing. 3.34 bullpen ERA, second best in the league. Slowly hit to second. And get the force on McFarland. That ends the inning.
Bottom sixth on the way. Diamondbacks trail the Cubs 8-3.
Rosales, one of the new Diamondbacks with this team, sprinting out to his position at shortstop. And Torey Lovello says he loves the makeup of Adam Rosales, the energy, the whole package. And he knew this years ago when Torey was a AAA coach with the Cleveland Indians organization. He said, I knew he was a throwback. He hit a home run back in the minors, and he was sprinting around the bases, as is his trademark even now to this day when he hits a homer. And Torey, as he's rounding third, Torey tries to get a word in and says, are you always going to play like this? And he says, yes. And he said, you know, when you get to the majors, they had a conversation later on. He said, when you get to the majors, you're going to see it done another way. And he said, no, I'm always going to play like this. And Torey said he's been true to that word here 10 years later into his career. And he's got that home run trot. Now, you guys know what I'm talking about. I know he's got the fastest times recorded. I believe the top 4 sprinting around the bases on a home run. Billy Hamilton, I think, has a couple in the top 10 as well. But we hope to see that pretty soon here.
Yeah, Jody, it's like Zach Godley, who sprints on and off the mound every inning. Rosales, when he hits a home run, he just missed one earlier tonight. Goes around the bases, BB on a dead run.
Yeah, it's a home run sprint. It's not a home run trot. And the Billy Hamilton times were probably on inside the Parkers. Adam Rosales hits it over the fence and still sprints around the bases.
Kyle Schwarber hitting for the pitcher Dunsing. Number 9 spot leads off the Chicago 6th against TJ McFarland. Schwarber, his offensive game has vanished, really scuffling. 187 this year, but he has hit 17 home runs. So it's been very much all or nothing for Schwarber. He recently was sent down to the minor leagues for a while just to try and figure things out. Third inning of relief for TJ McFarland. He has become by default, with Randall Delgado injured, the long man in the Diamondback bullpen. Schwarber got off to a really slow start. He was hitting barely 200 at the end of April. And then things got worse from there. Sent down to AAA Iowa in June for a few weeks. Hit a few home runs there, came back up. Like to play Ohio geography trivia. Where is Middletown, Ohio, the hometown of Kyle Schwarber?
Middle of the state.
Are you making that up?
I'm not quite sure.
Oh, I see. We've stumped him. Ohio's a big state. You got to know everything. That's why we play Name That Ohio Geography Trivia, whatever we call it. He didn't go, says Tony Randazzo at third, and Schwarber draws a leadoff walk.
It should be in the middle of the state, but it isn't. It's down near Cincinnati. MLB TV every night, every device. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live, plus get a free subscription to At-Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details.
And Zobrist now. Zobrist fouls that one away. It's always a highlight when we come to Chicago. Well, there's a number of things we like to do. Just being at the ballpark is the highlight, of course. Still a great atmosphere here. But there is the great Jim Weber. And we want to thank Jim and his lovely wife, Cindy. They host a get-together for us every year when we come into town. They have a place over on Lakeshore Drive. Oh boy, the views are unbelievable. He's about 35 floors up. Right on the water. Zobrist rolls one into right field. Schwarber digging for second. He's going to head for third. He's in there. It rolls behind Jury. Not much foul ground, so Schwarber has to stay put. He made a little box and checked it. How about that? You were talking about the little gestures they make. Schwarber, when he was in there third, a little square box and then a big check mark. Signifying something. But anyway, we want to thank Jim and Cindy Weber. They had the annual get-together the other night at their place. And boy, there's pizza there and all kinds. Tori Lovello was there with some of the staff. The governor, Greg Schulte, and I were there with Tom Candiotti, Leo Gilmartin. And we had a great time. We always do. So thanks again to the Webers, Jim and Cindy, for putting that on for us. Chris Bryant. I know you were otherwise engaged. I can't believe what you've taken on with this trip. Now, take us through. This, of course, is the home of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Take us through Bob Brenly's day off yesterday.
Well, it started Sunday night, actually, when we got into town around 8 o'clock. My daughter, Lacey, and her husband, Pat, brought the two girls, Gemma Rose and Parker Lilly, into the city. They all stayed at the hotel Sunday night. We got up and had a nice breakfast Monday morning.
So let's stop there. We show up. You've got like 17 kids in the hotel room.
Yeah.
It sounded like 17.
It felt like 17.
Grandpa! They all came running to the door.
Well, one came running, the other just kind of Googled at me from her chair. But yeah, then Monday, off day, all day. We went down to Navy Pier, went to the Children's Museum, rode the carousel.
Man.
Went to dinner, and we had bedtime, so we had to get them back to the hotel at a reasonable time so we could tuck them away for night. And then Gemma Rose woke me up at 7 o'clock this morning. Grandpa Bob, you ready for your coffee? So we all got dressed, went to breakfast, went to the Lincoln Park Zoo for most of the day, got back to the hotel just in time for Gemma to take a nap and me to come to the ballpark.
Rosales can't get a handle on a double play ball. Schwarber scores the 9th Cub run. It's just been that kind of night.
It sure looked like a tailor-made double play ball. Just kind of climbed up the wrist of Adam Rosales as he was moving to his left right there, getting ready to shovel it to Daniel Descalso. That one hurts.
Well, that's a lot to take on here. That's an E6 and an RBI. You've got responsibilities here. You've really got your hands full with the whole crew.
Well, I got news for you. We have another night game tomorrow, and Gemma Rose is waiting at the room right now. I have no idea what we're going to do tomorrow. We pretty much exhausted all the tourist attractions in Chicago.
That's the third Diamondback error tonight.
Oh, I skipped Millennium Park. We went to Millennium Park. They have a splash pad there where the kids can run through the fountains and so forth and so on.
Oh, that's strategic. Let them tire themselves out for a bit.
Yeah. Brought extra clothes for the kids, none for Grandpa. So I was soaking wet.
Rizzo has hit a 2-run homer and struck out twice. Now, I don't want to give them a free plug because
I think they're doing all right on their own.
I know where you're going with this.
But there is a company that specializes in dolls for Gemma Rose's age, and they have all sorts of accoutrement for those little dolls. It's become a big business, and I know you've become an expert at picking out all kinds of things for the dolls. I think they're into you for, it seems like about 25 grand at this point. Rizzo rolls it into left. He'll stop Zobrist and the bases are loaded. That's where that double play ball really comes back to bite the Diamondbacks. Second hit for Rizzo tonight. Bases loaded, a run is in, still no outs. And Wilson Contreras, the cleanup man, steps in. Contreras has walk, rounded out, single.
Looks like it's going to be Mike Butcher coming out of that first base dugout. I thought perhaps Torrey would make the change, go to a right-handed pitcher. You've got Contreras, Almora, Russell, Baez. Before you get to the switch hitter, Ian Happ in the 8th spot, all righties in front of him.
No one warming up in the Diamondback bullpen. You saw the runners, Zobrist at third, Bryant at second, and Rizzo at first. Trying to get some length out of TJ McFarland here. Diamondbacks playing the first of 3 in Chicago, followed by 3 in San Francisco over the weekend, so 6 games in 6 days. You don't want to blow out the bullpen here in game 1 at Wrigley. So they're trying to get everything they can from TJ. Contreras has hit home runs in 4 of his last 10 games. He's got 16 on the year. The run is home, bases full, and nobody out. Coming off a huge July. 7 homers and 19 runs batted in 22 games last month. That's in the gap, and that might clear the bases. Zobrist is home. Bryan scores. Rizzo will be stopped at third. A 2-run double for Wilson Contreras, and it's 11-3 Chicago.
Diamondbacks playing their middle infielders in just a little bit, not all the way in to cut off the run at home. Middle distance, and Adam Rosales just misses that with a jump. Once it gets over his head, it's all the way to the vines out there in left center field.
Oh, that sure double play ball that Rosales booted for an E6 has really come back to bite the Diamondbacks. Albert Almora, a 2-run single in the first. He's 1 for 3. Rizzo is at third, Contreras at second, still nobody out. Mike Montgomery, the left-hander, started warming up in the Cub bullpen. Almora hitting nearly .350 this year against left-hand pitching. A
2-run single off lefty Patrick Corbett in the first. That were the game's first 2 runs. High chopper to first. Goldie. McFarland's going to get to the bag, and he's in time. Rizzo scores. It's 12-3. Contreras moves up. That was awfully close at first, but Rob Drake says TJ got there.
Yeah, TJ a little slow getting off the mound that time. You see Goldie leading him toward the bag. He's not going to win that race, so he just reaches out and gets him on the elbow right there.
Into an RBI ground out for Almora. First out of the 6th, and the hitter is Addison Russell, who has singled and doubled tonight. Cubs got 2 in the first, 4 in the second, 2 in the third, now 4 runs in the 6th.
I don't think there's any doubt that the fact that this has been one of the sloppiest games we've seen the Diamondbacks play this year. 3 errors on the board, another couple plays that should have been made a lot easier than they were coming off an off day. And my recollection is the last couple of years Diamondbacks played terrible after off days.
And the bat goes flying into the stands behind the Cub dugout. Everybody appears to be okay.
Looking swing from Addison Russell. Top hand slides over the bottom hand as he helicopters that bat up into the stands over that third base dugout. Fortunately, some heads up Cub fans able to save that section.
Bobby mentioned the defense. Brandon Drury had an error in his first start of the year at third base back in the 2nd inning. That led to some Cub runs, and then the missed double play ball opportunity by Rosales here in this inning. That was one of the things that Torrey did tell us today, that he'd like to see short up a bit over the final 2 months of the year as we begin August tonight. And the defense, for the most part, has been pretty good, but there have been times when it wasn't quite a strong point. This is certainly one of those nights. He mentioned 2 things. I asked him, okay, 4 months in, 2 months to go. What do you think needs to most improve here for August and September? He said 2 things. The defense, which at times has been a little spotty, hasn't been a big issue. And the other was situational hitting. They had bases loaded in the 2nd and couldn't get a run home. Russell walks in the 6th.
I mean, anybody that plays Major League Baseball knows that the offense is going to come and go for individuals and for teams. You're going to have hot streaks and cold streaks. The same thing for your pitching. You're going to go through spells where you can't throw consistent strikes and it causes you to lose some ball games. But you'd like to think that heads-up, focused defense is something that should be there every day. I mean, everybody's going to make errors over the course of the season. It's the kind of errors and when they happen that really makes a difference in the outcome of ball games.
DJ at 50 pitches now. Javier Baez has grounded out 3 times, once into a double play. He's 0 for 3.
I mean to be alarming, partner, but the wind has turned around. We can feel it blowing in our face now. It was blowing kind of out to left field, or at least across from right to left earlier in the ball game, and now blowing almost straight in from center.
That's nice, actually. Gets a little steamy in here.
Yes, it does. Well, the way the press box here at Wrigley Field is built is to see Jorge De La Rosa beginning to crank it up to the Diamondbacks. If the wind is out of the south, which means that the wind is blowing out of Wrigley Field, you get no breeze here in the booth. It blows right over the top of the press box and down to field. However, when the wind blows in off of Lake Michigan,
we were here in April for that.
Oh boy, you don't want to feel that wind, and it's right in your face up here in the press box.
The coldest and the hottest I've ever been doing a game was sitting right where we are right now. We were here in April one year, that wind coming in off the lake, and I was shivering. And then we were here late August, maybe it was last year or the year before, and it was like an oven in here. 2-1 to Baez. This is hit deep left center field, and that ball is gone. Fourth Cub home run tonight. Zoe Lovello's Diamondbacks are down 15-3.
On a tapper back to the mound in his last at bat, didn't really bother to run. This time he can just jog around the bases. He knew he got it the moment he made contact, gives it a look, and then starts his home run trot.
It's turned into a 7-run Cub sixth. Jay McFarland's night will end. Jorge De La Rosa on the way in. We'll take a break from Chicago. Jorge De La Rosa. It's a 7-run Cubs sixth so far. Still only one out in the inning. Ian Happ will be the 9th man to bat for the Cubs here in the 6th.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time, partner. It's not always who you play, it's when you play them. And the Cubs kind of sputtered throughout the first half. But at the break, they were 5.5 games behind the Brewers. They're 13-3 since. They went from 5.5 out to 2.5 up. So we're catching the Cubs when they're about as hot as they've been all summer.
Yeah, right now a season high 8 games over 500. Chicago 56-48. Winners of 13 of 16, as you mentioned, since the All-Star break. Here is Ian Happ, a switch hitter who has a home run and a single tonight. 4 Cub homers. Skied behind third. Drury and Rosales are there. Adam has got it, 2 outs. Well, Schwarber started off the inning by hitting for the pitcher. He walked and came in to score. The Cubs have batted around in the 6th.
Schwarber with his 17 home runs, hitting under 200. Only Joey Gallo has hit more home runs while batting under 200. He's got 25 on the season.
Last time the Diamondbacks allowed 15 runs was August of last year, a 16-2 loss to the Red Sox at Fenway Park. And now here at iconic Wrigley Field, it's gone about as well. Schwarber races that one into left center. He's aboard for the second time in the inning. Zobrist, who has singled and scored in this inning. He scored 3 runs tonight. It's only the second time this year the Diamondbacks have given up 10 or more runs. A 10-4 loss to the Cardinals at the end of June at Chase Field. 15 runs, the most this season. Last time the Cubs have scored this many runs. Last April when Jake Arrieta no-hit Cincinnati 16-0. Cubs with 15 runs on 16 hits. Helped in part by 3 Diamondbacks errors. Count 3-2. Chris Bryant on deck. He singled, scored a run, knocked in 2 tonight. Schwarber, the runner at first with 2 outs. Here he goes. Ball 4. Chris Bryant. Twelfth man to bat in the Cubs' 6th. Rockies, who began the day a half game behind the Diamondbacks for the first National League wild card spot, are losing at home to the Mets. Dodgers, winners in Atlanta tonight, 3-2. 1-1 on Bryant. Bryant, first Cub ever to hit at least 20 home runs in each of his first 3 major league seasons. You were here last year. He almost hit one over the new video board in left field. Hit the very top of the board. At top left-hand corner.
Well, they actually put that big board up in left center field. And after one day of batting practice, they determined we better put some netting in front of the scoreboard.
Broken bat roller to Rosales. But it's a 7-run Cubs 6. They lead it 15-3. Diamondbacks, they trail the Cubs 15-3 as we start the 7th inning. But don't worry, fans, you can catch the D-backs and these Cubs at Chase Field coming up next weekend, August 11th through the 13th. This is one series you won't want to miss. First 20,000 fans with us on Saturday, August 12th. Get the Arizona flag cap. That's courtesy of Gila River Casinos. Get your tickets for the D-backs and the Cubs right now at dbacks.com. Left-hander Mike Montgomery on from the Chicago bullpen to start the 7th, his 30th appearance of the year. Kyle Schwarber stays in the game, takes over in left field. Ian Happ moves over to right field, and Zobrist gets the rest of the night off. A.J. Pollock, who has doubled, singled, and scored twice tonight, leads off the Arizona 7th. Center field for Almora.
Fans, a D-backs home run tonight means a free jumbo jack tomorrow at participating Jack-in-the-Box locations with a purchase of a large drink.
Cubs have been hitting the home runs tonight. They've hit 4, including John Lester's first ever homer. Here's Adam Rosales in his Diamondback debut, an RBI double his last time up. Native of the Chicago area, grew up just about 10-12 miles from here. Park Ridge, Illinois. Big Cub fan as a kid. Gonzalez acquired by the Diamondbacks yesterday in a trade for minor league pitcher Jefferson Mejia. Coincidentally, the Diamondbacks had acquired Mejia along with Zach Godley from the Cubs in the Miguel Montero trade a few years ago. So that trade worked out extremely well for the Diamondbacks. They moved $40 million in Montero's money, got Zach Godley, and they turned Mejia into Adam Rosales, who strikes out. 2 down in the 7th. Goldie has singled twice. He's got an RBI, 2 for 3. Montgomery has been a pretty valuable guy for Joe Madden this year. Got a win in Milwaukee over the weekend. He pitched a 10th inning. He was able to come in from the bullpen and make 8 starts while they were without Kyle Hendricks, who was injured for a long time. Well over a month. Ground ball to shortstop for Addison Russell. Montgomery works a 1-2-3-7. They stretch at Wrigley. Diamondbacks trail the Cubs 15-3.
Game.
Music guy I never heard of just sang that. Take me out to the ball game. He did have a lot of tribal tattoos, I noticed. Hey fans, you can stay up to date with the D-backs this year when they're at home and on the road. Just check out Fox Sports Arizona. Fox Sports AZ's on Facebook, on the Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the whole thing. Exclusive and unique videos, photos, interviews, game previews, analysis, and interaction you won't find anywhere else. Follow the Diamondbacks home and away on Fox Sports Arizona. Bottom of the 7th, Ruby De La Rosa, his 9th appearance of the year. Anthony Rizzo leads off the Cubs 7th. Rizzo hit a 2-run homer in the 2nd inning. Singled and scored in the 6th. Who was the, well, during your long tenure here, who was the coolest guy that ever sang and Take Me Out to the Ball Game that you got to meet and the whole thing?
There were a lot of, but my personal favorite was Buddy Guy. Blues guitar player.
Oh boy, Anthony Rizzo. Pollock at the wall and it's gone. Anthony Rizzo, his 2nd home run tonight, is 26th of the year, and it's 16-3 Cubs.
Buddy Guy could have written a song about the Diamondbacks' performance here. Tears in your beers.
They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad.
I mean, just a center cut meatball that time to a real good hitter, and Anthony Rizzo makes him pay. That wind that was blowing in an inning ago has stopped completely. Not sure if it would have helped the Diamondbacks at all on that drive or not.
5 home runs for the Cubs tonight. 17 hits, ties a season high. They did that twice back in April. Wilson Contreras, a 2-run double his last time up. The Cub catcher. Buddy Guy, that works.
Yeah, he was just a very humble guy, was very appreciative for everything that had come his way over the course of his career, and loved baseball, loved the Cubbies. Just a genuinely happy man. He was fun to be around. tell you who else was a lot of fun was Mr. T.
Oh, pity the fool.
I pity the fool, and I wasn't expecting that from Mr. T, but he came in the booth, and it was a long inning. It just kept going on, and finally at one point I said, well, you know, you're a big dude. Did you play sports in high school? I bet you were a football player. No, my mama wouldn't let me play football.
That's an excellent Mr. T.
Oh, he was great.
Otherwise known as Clubber Lang or B.A. Baracus. Contreras strikes out. Here comes Almora.
I just found it amazingly interesting to watch these people who are, you know, Hollywood actors or professional singers or whatever their profession happened to be, but in the public and used to, you know, being on camera, all of them just shaking in their boots, waiting to sing that song. And I've done it a few times. There is something about standing up and having 40,000 people looking at you, waiting to do something you've got no business doing.
Big crowd here tonight, 40,709. Yeah, that would be terrifying. I'm glad I don't have to do anything like that.
But, you know, the whole idea was, you know, Harry did it, and Harry couldn't sing a lick. But the idea was, you know, it's a shared experience, and we're all here at the ballpark having a great day. Yeah, let's warble our way through this song.
More lines one to left, and Peralta's got an warning track. 2 outs. Because some guys come up and boy, they're terrible. And other guys are really good. You never know.
Well, some guys get booed before they even start singing.
Really?
Who's the race car driver?
Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
No, it's great to be here at Wrigley Stadium.
Boo. That's not going to work.
No, not at all.
Addison Russell, the shortstop. Why was it? It might have been last year when we were here, but John Lovitz, who was thrilled to see you.
He was great.
Well, I didn't think we were going to be able to get him out of the booth. He wouldn't leave. Because he was acting. It's always funny. It's funny because the booth, you know, Len and JD work just to our right here. And you turn over there. You never know who's going to be standing there. Fergie Jenkins might be there. I mean, some movie guy, some singer.
Well, Lovitz really gave me a hard time. That's why we kind of developed a love-hate relationship, because he kept asking me, why again did you get fired in Arizona?
Oh, that's right.
Why are you here on the television?
As only he can.
Oh, Lord.
And there's the strikeout, but the Cubs tack on another run. Anthony Rizzo's second home run tonight. A rough night for the D-backs at Wrigley. Home runs have helped Chicago take a 16-3 lead as we start the 8th inning. Fans, Crystal Pepsi's throwback tour is on its way to Phoenix. Sugar Ray's Mark McGrath will headline a post-game street concert. Coming up next Friday, August 11th, after the Diamondbacks game against these Cubs. For all the information, Check out dbacks.com/concert. D-backs fans here with us. As J.D. Martinez leads off the 8th against the lefty Mike Montgomery.
I ran into some D-backs fans yesterday at Navy Pier when I was riding on a zebra on the carousel.
Oh, I wish I could have seen that.
Hey, aren't you? And I'd go all the way around and come back. Aren't you? Bob Bradley. Aren't you Bob Bradley?
You've been on that carousel for 20 years.
No kidding. A nice young family, a couple boys. They're in town to watch the Diamondbacks.
Nice. It's a good day to walk around.
Yeah, summer vacation.
There they are, D-backs fans with us. A lot of D-back jerseys down there. Big crowd, over 40,000 here tonight. I did notice as I was journeying up and down the Magnificent Mile that the MLS All-Star Game is here. Men in Blazers were here. They did a special podcast show last night from somewhere in town. So send your Ravens and find out where. Suboptimal night tonight, 16-3 Cubs. Diamondbacks season high in runs allowed, hits allowed, home runs allowed. D-backs and Cubs first of 3. Diamondbacks have also committed 3 errors. That ties the season high. 3-2 on JD.
It's pretty tough to look at the box score either side and find much to be encouraged about for the Diamondbacks. A.J. Pollock does have a couple of knocks in the game, same for Paul Goldschmidt, but lots of red ink on my scorebook here. I use red to indicate strikeouts, and the D-backs have gone down a bunch again tonight.
Well, Lester had 9. He struck out Jack Reinheimer to win the 4th for career strikeout number 2,000. 10, so I got 11 strikeouts for the D-backs. There is the Diamondback lineup. Strikes out. Montgomery has retired all 4 he's faced. 1 down in the 8th. Brandon Drury has started third base tonight, 0 for 3. That has struck out, popped up, and grounded out. Trying to get his offensive game back on track after Torey Lovullo was pulled back some of his playing time. They wanted to get a look at Brandon Drury at third base tonight, his first game all year at third. That's his natural position. He split his time in the minor leagues in several different seasons, equally between second and third. Bryant in the hole, spins and throws. So it was Drury at third tonight against the lefty Lester. Jake Lamb, Torey Lovullo tells us, will be at third base Thursday afternoon against the left-hander Jose Quintana. 2 down for Descalso. That's a fair ball at first for Rizzo. 6 up, 6 down in relief for Montgomery. Bottom 8 all the way. Diamondbacks trim it 16-3. Bottom 8 here. Fans get to any weekend home game with the Diamondbacks Bud Light ticket pack, including next weekend's games against the Cubs at Chase Field. That's August 11th through the 13th. The pack includes a game ticket, a Bud Light, and a bacon wrap Sonoran hot dog, all for only $29. Visit dbacks.com/Bud Light. Chaos has ensued as Daniel Descalso is on the mound for the Diamondbacks, a position player. Will work the bottom of the 8th inning. Descalso started the game at second base. He is now on to pitch in the home half of the 3rd. Wait, there's more now. How much would you pay? Chris Iannetta takes over at 3rd base. So Iannetta's playing 3rd as Drury moves to 2nd, replacing Descalso. And Gregor Blanco is out in right field, replacing J.D. Martinez. Daniel Descalso on the mound.
He'll cut it, he'll sink it. He's got a big over-the-top curveball.
Stop it. None of that is true. Although you sold it pretty well.
All right, now we just want to see him get that ball close to the bottom of the strike zone, get some quick outs, get his team back in the dugout, and get this one over with. There you go.
It's going to roll foul. We have Daniel Descalso pitching his 2nd game in the major leagues. He pitched 1/3 of an inning for the Cardinals back in 2014. Faced one batter and recorded an out. He has an excellent FIP. Baez fouled that one away.
Works best with 965 days of rest, or whatever happens to be.
Got a lot. A lazy fly ball to center for A.J. Pollock. Now let's see. Daniel Descalso's one and only appearance prior to this was May 12th, and
Coincidentally, not ironically, it came against these Cubs. He threw 2 pitches and got 1 fly ball out.
Well, it was long enough ago that he doesn't have a history with a lot of these current Cubs, so they can't use the advance report from the guys that faced him back in 2014.
What's he got? A lot of discussion in the Cub dugout right now. Ian Happ. Happ homered in the 2nd inning, his 14th of the year.
Notice Daniel pitching out of the stretch. A lot of guys do that nowadays just to simplify things a little bit. Much cleaner delivery. This is the 18th time a position player has been asked to pitch this season. The Cubs have done it a couple times. John Jay, a left-handed throwing outfielder, and Miguel Montero, before he went to Toronto, pitched for the Cubbies.
Full count, 3-2.
Chris Jimenez of the Minnesota Twins has pitched 6 times this year already, a position player.
That seems like a lot.
That's a lot.
Along the left field line, long run for Peralta. He's got room. Well, Daniel Descalso's now faced 3 batters in the major leagues. He's gotten all 3 to fly out. 2 up, 2 down in the game. Now he'll deal with Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber walked, singled, and scored a run in the Cubs' 7-run 6th. And remained in the game to take over in left field. Headed for the wall, and Peralta's there. Nice. Daniel Descalso, a 1-2-3 8th inning. We head to the 9th in Chicago. Vacant lot. Now it's a ticketed area with a park and monitors and a stage and the whole thing, all part of the reconstruction and expansion in Wrigleyville. Our Gila River game summary. It's 16-3 Cubs. They've hit 5 home runs.
And As it stands right now, Hector Rondon would be the winning pitcher. He went an inning and 2/3 with an 8-2 lead when he entered the ball game, and Mike Montgomery would get a save in a 16-3 ball game.
Yeah, Montgomery has retired all 6 batters he's faced, 1, 2, 3 innings in the 7th and 8th. So if he pitches the final 3, he gets the save. Those are the rules. Jeff Mathis, the catcher, who was 0 for 2 with a walk, will lead off the Diamondback 9th inning. Jeff with an 8-game hitting streak on the line here. And there it is. Mathis make it 9 straight with a base hit. And 15 of 17, a leadoff single. Chris Herman came in to relieve Paul Goldschmidt at first base, so Herman gets his first at bat tonight. 162 and 8 home runs.
We mentioned Mike Montgomery in line for a save here in a 16-3 ball game. Not quite as dramatic as his first career save, which came in Game 7 of the World Series last year.
Not bad. It's a good time to get one. I still don't think the Cubs would have won if they didn't get that rain delay.
I think you're probably right.
A little 10-minute rain delay seemed to turn everything around for him.
Momentum buster, momentum builder if you're the Cubs.
Herman bounces one to first. Rizzo toss it to Montgomery. They move Mathis along. That's the first out in the night. David Peralta 0 for 3. He was hit by a pitch. David right now 1 for his last 24 up there. He had a very quiet series in St. Louis, was 1 for 16 against the Cardinals. Same 2 teams tomorrow night. Diamondback Live pregame show at 4:30 in the afternoon. 5:05 first pitch. Zach Godley against Jake Arrieta. Great pitching matchup Thursday morning for you. An afternoon game here at Wrigley. Zach Greinke against Jose Quintana. Diamondback Live pregame show Thursday at 10:30 in the morning. First pitch is 11:20. And then after that game, it's off to San Francisco as we finish up this road trip with 3 against the Giants. Diamondbacks are not sure after Godley and Greinke pitch the final 2 games of this series who will start Friday in San Francisco. That's Robbie Ray's spot. Taijuan Walker will start Saturday's game against the Giants. Patrick Corbin will go Sunday. Torrey told us today they're still trying to formulate a plan for Friday's start at AT&T Park. They have some ideas.
And Daniel Descalso has thrown his hat into the ring for that Friday start.
They want to start him. He'll be working on normal rest. And again, normal rest for him is 3.5 years. Yeah. So Schwarber's got that one 2 outs. Cody Jackson standing by. Diamondbacks Live postgame presented by CenturyLink is coming up next. Reaction from inside the very small visitors clubhouse here at Wrigley Field, where it's going to feel a lot smaller after this one. Diamondbacks season highs in runs allowed, hits allowed, and home runs allowed. AJ has doubled, singled, and scored twice tonight. Cubs with a win here will improve to 14-3 since the All-Star break. Brewers have already won. They beat the Cardinals at Miller Park, so Chicago's National League Central Division lead will stay at 2.5 games. D-backs will drop 15 games behind the Dodgers for the National League West lead. LA won at Atlanta today 3-2. Looks like Colorado and the Mets are tied up at Coors Field. Rockies a half game behind the Diamondbacks at the start of play today for that first NL wild card spot. Didn't go, says Rob Drake. It's 2-1. The D-backs, this will be their 18th loss in their last 28 games. 10-18 since June 28th. AJ hits it hard to short. Russell. Rizzo can't make the scope. Mathis has got to get back to first. No throw there from Addison Russell. And the hometown kid, Rosales, gets another chance. He's 6. As Pollock at first.
10th error of the season for Addison Russell. He's a guy that looks like he needs to wind up to throw the ball across the diamond. Very good shortstop. Usually makes very accurate throws, but it looks like it takes everything he has to get that ball across the diamond.
Rosales in his Diamondbacks debut had an RBI double in the 5th. He just missed a home run off the wall in left. Acquired by the Diamondbacks yesterday from the Oakland A's. Rosales grew up about 10 miles from here, Park Ridge, Illinois. Staying with mom and dad during this series. D-backs have both Nick Ahmed, Chris Owings on the 60-day disabled list. Ketel Marte has had to return to the Dominican Republic following the tragic death of his mother in an automobile accident over the weekend. Here's Rosales playing shortstop and batting third, and he laces one into right center. That gets Mathis home. Pollock into third, an RBI single for Adam Rosales, his second hit tonight.
Fine drive into right field that time by Adam Rosales. Got a pitch up and out over the plate. Keep grinding.
Second hit, second RBI as a D-back for Rosales. And here is the third baseman, Chris Iannetta. Iannetta checked in at third in the last half inning. And Brandon Drury moved over to second base, and Daniel Descalso took over the pitching duties. Chris, 229, 8 home runs. Fastball misses in, 2 balls and 1 strike. Of Chris's last 23 hits have been for extra bases. Out in front of that one, it's 2-2. $40,709 in here tonight. Cubs about to go to a season high 9 games over 500. That one's fouled off. Diamondbacks will drop to 14 games over 500. Two balls and 2 strikes to Chris Iannetta. It's full.
Gregor Blanco would be next. The bases are loaded. An error, an RBI single, and a walk, all with 2 outs. And Blanco is the hitter. Gregor Blanco took over for J.D. Martinez in right field a half inning ago. 261 and 3 homers. Bases full of Diamondbacks and 2 outs here in the ninth. Blanco hitting a .190 against lefties this year. Does have 1 home run against a left-hander. A.J. Pollock is at third, Adam Rosales at second, and Chris Iannetta the runner at first. Grand slam cuts the lead in half. 1-1. Blanco's playing time. Boy, he did a great job while AJ was out all that time. But Blanco's playing time has really been cut back. Now that Pollock is back and healthy, they added J.D. Martinez. Tough to get Gregor those at bats. Slaps that one foul, and it's 1-2. Joey Jackson standing by. Diamondbacks Live, presented by CenturyLink. The post-game show follows our ball game. Pre-game show tomorrow at 4:30. Zach Godley versus Jake Arrieta. Wind is blowing straight out to center. On the ground to second base for Baez. And the Cubs take this one 16-4. Diamondbacks, who split a 4-game set in St. Louis, dropped the opener of a 3-game series here at Wrigley Field. They're now 14 games over 500 for the year after giving up season highs in runs, hits, and home runs.
Now we knew it was going to be a tall task coming in here to Wrigley Field, the way the Cubs have been playing in the second half of the season, but certainly not a representative game for what we've seen from the Diamondbacks this year. Some very sloppy defensive plays. This is what happens when you play against a hot team, swinging hot bats, and you're not at the top of your game. This is what can happen.
Cubs have got it rolling. They are 14-3 since the All-Star break. Now a season high 9 games over 500. We'll take a break. Back from Wrigley Field with more after this.